right, good morning. Today is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen. It's Tuesday, January 24th, and it is 8:30 a.m. In front of you, you have today's agenda. I have one addition to add to the agenda. It is a approval of a request from the parking department to enter into a month-to-month renewal contract with Passport Labs, Inc., Passport Management System. If I could get a motion to add that item to our agenda.
So moved.
It's unanimous. And if I could get a motion to approve the amended agenda. We're going to move parking after the fire department. Okay. So
Number 7.
okay, so that'll be the new 7. Okay, and then could I get a motion to approve the new amended agenda?
So moved.
It's unanimous. Thank you. And then we have the minutes from our regularly scheduled meeting on January 7th. Are there any additions or corrections anyone would like to make?
None here.
Okay, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting.
So moved.
It's unanimous. Public comments. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the Board of Selectmen on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Comments submitted electronically should be sent to the following email address: bosdistribution@newcanaanct.gov. Anyone? Nope. Okay, moving on. Appointments. Approval of the following appointments. Oh, hi, Alan.
Morning, Alan.
Good morning.
So the appointment is the appointment of Alan Badanes as an alternate member for a 2-year term ending December 1st, 2025. You'll remember that we moved Nick Matraxis up to fill the seat vacated by Colm Dobbin. And so Alan will be filling the alternate role previously held by Nick Matraxis. Any questions? Thank you for being online. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Timing with the new budget, you get to hit the ground running from the beginning. So nice to have you aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if I could get a motion to approve the appointment of Alan Badanes as an alternate member for a 2-year term ending December 1st, 2025. So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much for your service. I appreciate it. He was recently appointed to the Historical Review Commission, correct? Is that what? Or Historic District? I can't remember.
Historic Review. I don't know if I have to resign from that, but it hasn't been very active.
But, well, we'll get the specifics on it.
Well, you know,
Okay.
Alan, you got up early this morning to join us. So can you just tell it for the record, just tell the community who you are, how long you've lived in town, just so they know?
Yes, we moved here in 2003 after a number of years working for JP Morgan in London. And we have a daughter, Jilly, and her husband and granddaughter who also live in town, which is part of my motivation to, give back to the town a bit through this means.
Yeah, Alan's got a good financial background, so perfect fit for Board of Finance.
Great.
Great.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank
And you
you.
got lucky, you were like first up in the agenda, so you don't have to stay online forever.
I'm actually in Colorado, so it is a little early.
Oh, you really got it early.
Well, you look good for that early. So,
Oh, wow, that's 2 hours ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Well, enjoy the cold. I know it's super cold out there right now. All right.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. And then for the Utilities Commission, if I could, oh, she is. Hi, Danica. Thank you for being online.
Hi, everyone.
Last week at the Utilities Commission meeting for the mini CHP units that was being conducted at the library by Axiom. So thank you for your enthusiasm for jumping right in. So Danica is being asked to take the position vacated by Janae Hunter on the Utilities Commission. So any questions or?
Danica, just thank you for your service, and it's a great team you're joining. Rich Townsend and Sven run a great group there. So thank you for stepping up and volunteering. We really appreciate it.
yeah, and bringing the next generation in to do this because you're so much younger than us.
No, thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. I feel really privileged and honored to take on a role that you know, I know there's a lot of learning involved and to give back to our community.
Donica's got a really strong tech background.
Yes.
So that's
Yep.
good. Thanks.
Great.
Okay. So if I could get a motion to approve the appointment of Danica Landers for a 3-year term ending July 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Congratulations. And then, well, you get the privilege of going on to the town council for a final vote as,
No,
not the
Yeah.
utilities?
Alan does, yeah.
I think, okay. Oh, it's the ethics board that does, sorry. So just Alan. Okay. All right. So congratulations. Thank you very much.
Danica.
All right, moving on to the budget review. So who's coming for Josh?
Health and Human Services first. or-
Yeah, Health and Human Service. I mean, I don't, whatever you guys want to do. You want to do Health and Human Service? Okay. You think? Yeah, well, let me pull you up. That's right. This is year 2, right? Oh, well, oh, that's right. There were some other reasons. Because we're a really
Steve's nice to
mean group.
everybody, okay? He's gonna thank you for your service before you start, so.
I know. All right. So, I'm looking for- yes, I'm trying to pull it up on mine too. Health Human Services PowerPoint draft. There we go. All right, we are good to go.
Hold on.
And then that's page, just for you guys, page 16 on their expense budget in the budget book.
You Good?
Or you let us know when you're done.
Okay. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is the Human Services Department.
It's on. Maybe just bring it closer.
Little closer?
Yeah,
How's
there you go.
This is the 26 budget request for Human Services. The mission of Human Services is to support the well-being of all New Canaan residents by creating programs and providing resources that address their developmental needs while helping them access essential social services and resources. Our caseload, as you can see, has increased over the years. Year to date, adult and seniors are at 227. Last year, at the end of fiscal year 2024, we were at 202. So we see that moving up as well. Youth and family are at 154 families with 160 children. Our domestic violence cases are on par for probably about 30 cases in total as well. And then we have some weekly programs, Life Reimagined, and I have a grief support group. And that has also increased like a lot. So we had total of 288 attendees for the grief support group in 2024. Year to date, I have 288, and they are coming every week. So, and it's about 12 to 14 participants in that. So I expect that number to be double what it is now as well. Our energy assistance program has gone up. We had 94 year-to-date participants. Last year, we only had 76. And our renter's rebate has stayed about the same.
Can I ask, is the grief support and loss group is 288? Is that the number of people or that's the
That's
number?
the total number. We have.
So if you
between
divide, if
12
you would
and
divide it by
14.
52, that's or whatever.
We have about 14 participants. a week.
Okay. So it's like 14 people.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
And all the other indicators, are those actually individual people or touch points? You know, so if.
So
like
the energy
domestic violence, is
assistance
that-
and renters rebate, those are individual
Okay.
applications. The weekly programs are total numbers of people throughout.
Okay.
So it's,
So,
what she's
like,
saying is
reimagined-
because you're going to have some of the same people coming for your clients multiple weeks. So you count them each week that you see them, not that one person. And then it's not 270. So for the adult senior
Correct.
clients, it's not 227 individual clients. It's how many times you're seeing a client.
No, it's 227 individual clients. That's how many clients I have.
But then the grief support.
Is different.
Okay. So
I'm
that's the
sorry,
only one that's
yes.
different.
So the weekly programs are different. Yeah,
Okay.
the weekly programs
Okay.
are in total.
Okay.
So,
So
so
Life
Life
Reimagined-
Reimagined, we have between 10 and 12 people once a month.
Okay.
And then the grief support is weekly.
Okay. You know what? For next
Yeah,
year, can you add to your weekly programs, just like next to Life Reimagined once a month or in parentheses,
Yes,
something like
yes.
that, just so we can,
Yeah, discrete individuals.
right.
Yeah.
Just we
Yes.
understand. Yes. That'd be great. Okay.
But just the adult senior clients and the youth family clients, those are actual
Those are-
227
yes, that's how many
individuals and,
clients.
yeah, okay,
And then the amount of people I see per week vary.
right.
I don't keep track of that actual number.
So the adult and the senior and the youth family, are any of those overlaps?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
okay, thank you.
Sorry. No overlapping. The state resources accessed by Human Services and our clients. Those are resources that we help our clients with, but they are run through the state. They are the Social Security, the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging, the Department of Social Services, which helps with like Medicaid and SNAP and MSP programs, Department of Children and Families, Adult Protective Services, the Community Action Agency, which helps with energy assistance. We help them with their applications, but they provide the funding for that. And the Elderly and Disabled Renters Rebate Program. Those are all the state programs that we help our clients with. Our food pantry participation has really increased. If you can see, this year I did year to date, just so you could see where we are and how we think that the use is really going to be increased. In 2023, we had a total of 1,201 clients. In 24, we had a little over 1,400. And this year, year to date, we have 892 already. So
Again, is that individual visits or is that individual clients? I mean, is it, was it 1,200?
that's household individuals who have used it for the full year. So we will count every visit as one visit.
So one person visiting the food pantry every week would be 52 in that number.
So it's like
It's-
it's like a door counter, basically.
Okay, but it's just, I mean, just to put in perspective, when we have, I mean, it's great, right? But it's not that we have 1,200 households
Right.
using it. We have that
No,
many
we-
visits. Yeah.
Right, right.
So it's like 23. If you took the 1201, it's probably more than that because some people probably
It's
don't
more
come
than
every
that,
week.
yeah.
Some people probably don't come
Yeah.
every week. But if you were to take that one person divided by 52, it's
Right.
23.
Mhm.
So
So we tried to
really
break
good.
it down to the shoppers, the actual shoppers who come,
Mhm.
and then who they're shopping for. So there could be a shopper who's a senior who's shopping for themselves.
Mhm.
And then there can also be like a shopper who comes who's shopping for you know, a
Four.
family
And
of
you-
four.
And
So
you count 4 if they're shopping for 4.
correct. That's why the household individuals are
Okay.
higher than the shoppers coming to the food pantry
Oh, I see. Yep.
And can you remind me, is it open every week or every other week?
every other week.
Great.
So
Okay.
it's
So
twice
just
a
in
month.
terms- Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then just as a reminder, our food pantry runs off primarily monetary donations and food drives that help fill the need. It doesn't come out of our budget.
That's one of the great things about our community. That
Yeah.
food pantry is just amazing.
It
The way
is.
it's set up so that, you know, you literally have a shopping cart and the whole experience feels like you're shopping. It's really amazing.
And then anything that is like donated that's not on our needed list goes on to like a bonus table, which is nice. So while our volunteers are shopping off of the grocery list that our residents have given, they can go around a bonus table and like, you know, bring home extras and stuff. So
Do you think, Marcy, there's enough awareness in town? I mean, everybody knows that it's there, right? I mean,
I
it's-
do. And yeah. And Mike Dian's been great about putting articles in the paper and yeah, we have a really wonderful community that knows a lot. And we get a lot of phone calls from, you know, people who say, you know, we wanted to drop something. Where do we drop it? Like it's weekly that we get those phone calls. So,
Good.
yeah. The human services programs that we participate with, and these are funded out of our general assistance program and our public health accounts. I grouped them into a couple categories. We do some advocacy, which is I work with adult protective services and I help with conservatorships when needed. I run this bereavement group. I will help with emergency response, eviction processing, post-action crisis team, and short-term and crisis counseling. Our wellness categories, we work with behavioral health initiatives, we do choices counseling, we help with the employee wellness there. I am the municipal agent for veterans. We maintain a vulnerable population registry, which has about 86 people on it currently. I will do wellness home checks with the police if they request, or if a family member requests and I can reach out to a family, I will do a wellness check.
And Marcy's been great. Like when we've had, you know, weather emergencies, you know, she's been reaching out to our list of vulnerable population. And then like, obviously with this cold snap, she's also.
Making sure that everyone has what they need and, you know, or when it's super, super warm, make sure that, you know, they have fans and water and all that. Our outreach, we do some community outreach. We do a lot of holiday programs. Our commission had delivered 37 individual like gift baskets for seniors who are sort of isolated. We
Got kudos from the commission because she like personally picked out the gifts for the residents and they were individually curated. So.
I say that. Yeah, I do that. But like,
I'll toot your horn if you want.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we have, I know these clients. So when somebody does volunteer to purchase a basket, I say, well, they happen to have a dog and they like to do, you know, this and that, and they're bakers. And so it does feel very personal and they really enjoy it. The Lapham Center program, the Life Reimagined, New Canaan Abuse Prevention Partnership, New Canaan Behavioral Health Alliance. Jackie does a youth and family newsletter, and she also will do preschool visits. She is their social service consulting person. And last but not least, our financial assistance. We do back to school programs. We do a little financial assistance as far as helping with rent. We cannot sustain people, but if there is a crisis or a one-time need for rent help, we are capable of doing that. And we've made that like very clear. We just can't sustain someone as much as we would like to. We can't sustain someone here, but if they are having a month where they're, you know, they've lost a job or they've lost hours, if they're health aides or something, we can help them with that. We help with energy assistance applications, renter's rebate, and the food pantry, as I said before. outside agency grants. So this, in the next couple slides, I'll be able to show you that we were able to like fund a lot of these through our own grants, which was great on our budget. The Get About is going to be receiving 50,000, and that's 25,000 from New Canaan and 25,000 from the CTDOT grant. Kids in Crisis will be receiving 96,000. That's 70,000 from New Canaan, 16,000 from the Youth Services Bureau grant, and 10,000 from the opioid settlement.
So just to stop real quickly, because Marcy's been very helpful in helping me to look at sort of all our grants and so we want to fund our agencies, but there's a better strategic way to do it. And we get grants for that kind of work. And so, you know, if we can continue to fund the agencies that we support in this community, but utilize our grants more efficiently, it's a win-win. The town doesn't have to kick in as much, but the agencies get the same amount of funding. from
Yes.
us.
Deanna, did we get this funding in the past and it went somewhere else in the budget? Or is this, have we improved our?
So we've gotten the Youth Services Bureau grant in the past.
Yeah.
It was sort of never really given like to us as a department to give to these larger organizations. They were it was given like piecemeal to organizations, you know, like $1,200 to the Color Drop, and all of those things are fantastic, but we were just giving little bits and pieces to, you know, like the high school post-prom or post-graduation party. It was just sort of not being used.
So there was a relook as to how we were spending our grant money.
Right. So was it more in the general fund as opposed to assigned? I'm just where was
coming
it?
into it's a special grant fund. It doesn't come into the,
Fine.
it doesn't go into the general fund. It doesn't go into the general fund. So it was just outside of the budget.
Decided to take that, and that will be a different number each year. So there may be years that I
Yeah.
can't cover as much. But this year was, we have gotten a decent amount. I think it's about 36,000 in total. So that's where that number is coming from.
This is a much more impactful way to do this kind of thing, where you're covering a major cost here of a very.
Well, that's it. Rather than, 500 here or 1,000 there, it's like, that's not keeping lights on and stuff. But I feel like this is like really making an impact while we're still kind of keeping our budget lower. I think in another slide, it will show you that we have saved the town this way. I think it's like 34% or something of our budget was cut with using these grants this way.
But without cutting what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. They'll be receiving the same amount that they need. So, because that was important to us. We didn't want to. New Canaan Cares will be receiving 18,000, 5,000 from New Canaan, 5,000 from the Youth Services grant, and 8,000 from the opioid settlement. Meals on Wheels will be receiving 5,000. That's going to be directly from New Canaan. And the New Canaan Urgent Assessment actually asked for a little less this year. They have now been able to use insurance for some of their clients. So that's been fantastic. And they are going to be starting to take Medicaid also. So that may even be lower next year. But they are going to be receiving 40,000, 15,000 from New Canaan, and 25,000 from the opioid settlement.
Okay, and this may not be your lane, but I'm going to ask it. So
Okay.
When we set up urgent assessment, it was to get the assessment quickly. And the idea is if your insurance didn't cover it, we'd backstop you. We're still in that position, right?
We still are, yep. But, like residents are allowed to not share their insurance if they don't want to. But if they do, Silver Hill will try to run it through.
Yep.
And they have, and that's.
What was, because I wasn't part of that decision.
Yeah.
What was the reason for not requiring, if someone is insured, to share that insurance information with Silver Hill?
There's a confidentiality thing. Insurance is allowed to know, like a diagnosis, et cetera. And so if people don't want that to be known. They can choose not to.
But I mean, I'm just gonna.
That's a
I'm gonna-
Silver Hill thing. I don't know.
Okay, because that's
Yeah.
like I mean, if you have cancer, that the insurance company knows you have cancer. I mean, I'm a little confused by the methodology, but we can talk about that offline.
Yeah,
We can
that's
talk
fine.
about that offline.
And that was a Silver Hill policy. I don't think it has
Mm.
anything to do with.
That must be in there.
All right. Okay, this one coming soon. We hope. We are working on a donation button where residents will be able to donate online directly to their cause of choice. We're going to have a drop-down menu, and they'll be able to pick from food pantry, most needed, back to school, holiday fund, and domestic violence. So we're really looking forward to getting that up and running. No pressure, but I think it might be in your desk now. So
Yeah, the problem with anything when you have money and systems is making sure that everything's secure and that no one can access any of the town's accounts nefariously. So
And my assumption on this is that,
Yeah.
and I only say this is an organization I'm otherwise involved with, was getting charged outrageous transaction fees.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this will be in the 3% range and people have the option to cover that. You know, like you donate somebody and the
I'll
credit
give you
card.
$1.03 instead
Yeah,
of a
and then if you
$1.
want to, yeah,
outrageous. I think it was like 1%. wasn't
okay.
it?
A little bit higher than that.
Okay, but low.
It is reasonable, it's definitely better than what we do. in
Yeah.
tax collection.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that, you know,
Yeah.
a third party isn't
Right.
taking money to go elsewhere. Okay, great.
We have also, I am working with Catholic Charities. They have a family loan program. And they also have an incredible budgeting program. And we have an office in our building that we are going to start utilizing for monthly office hours for Catholic Charities for our residents who are unable to get to like Stanford, to help them like budget, because there's a budgeting issue. You know, you can only, when you only have a fixed amount of income, you have to really figure out where you're spending it and how you're spending it. And so they have a great program, and they'll be coming once a month to work on that. And they also have a fantastic, this loan program is you can be very low income and still get help with paying off cars, or if they need a car loan, or if they need to, you know, rearrange their credit card debt and that kind of thing. The family loan program will help with that.
So they can help people restructure their debt, maybe push
Yes.
down the interest rate and stuff like that.
Exactly,
Great.
exactly. And then they have a 0% loan. So you just have to pay them back. So
Okay.
they're fantastic. And then through Laurel House, we are going to be bringing a monthly program. The people at Laurel House help with competitive employment. They will help with resume writing. They'll help. They've got feet on the ground and know of places that are looking for employees. So they will help with employment. And our spreadsheets. These are my favorite, being a social worker. Let's see. Most of my numbers are actually down. I don't know if you want to go line by line or if you just sort of want.
I don't think we need to do that here. We
General
already did that.
assistance is
Yeah.
the only one I'm asking for, which is not been asked for a couple of years. General assistance started with 107,000 in 2023. We spent 34,000, and in 2024 we spent about 30,000. And this year we're on trend. To
Why don't I see that, Josh, on the budget?
Yeah, I don't need-
It's in special project account, and now she's asking for money out of general fund.
it used to be funded
Oh,
by
okay.
the town.
So
I
you
think
just had it in a different, it wasn't in her budget, it was in a different special projects fund. Okay, that makes sense.
we
I
just
don't
had,
see it
we
on our
had
list.
like
Yeah.
a lot of money in that basket. So we have been spending it down.
And
And
that's for, I'm sorry, tell us again what that's for, the general assistance?
that's general assistance is for our rent assistance, our any financial aid that we give.
Okay.
And like I said, we spend about 30 to 35,000 a year. At the end of this year, we're only going to have about 20,000 left. So we are asking for 15,000, but that doesn't mean we'll ask for that next year, because with
the-
hope
with
of
the-
this donation button, we may,
Okay.
not have to visit that again. But we don't want.
This is a little hard for people to follow, you
Mhm.
know, because it looks like we have not been giving general assistance.
Mhm.
You know, it's just,
We
it's when you move
weren't.
stuff around.
Special project fund where it is now. So this is just the funding mechanism.
Yeah, Cheryl used to have this role
Is he
many years
right?
ago.
Always have a general assistance fund up until 21. And at that point, the Board of Selectmen felt because there's so much money in special projects, let's not tax the taxpayers, use that money. Once it's depleted, then we'll put general assistance back in. And so that's why she's now back here, because they have gone through that.
Okay, do you know where the money came to build up that $100,000 fund? Was it from the town? Was it from
All
donation?
donations,
Okay,
All
Yeah.
donations from food bank, from all different types, and it just got very large. And so the selectmen at that point decided to cut the general
Yeah.
assistance, use the donation. And hopefully, like Marcy said, we'll get back up there with the donations.
in next year, Human Services will have a revenue line associated with it as opposed to the general fund for these donations? Just,
With the button.
It's gonna be a revenue line in the special project.
And will it say, but it'll say human services so we can track it?
it,
You're not on the mic. Anybody at home is.
Right. I was just gonna think of that.
Oh, come on up to the table. Sorry.
no, I'm just trying to see how we can have it in the numbers so people can understand that, you know, year in, year out, we've done whatever dollar amount is approximately with assistance. And it sounds, just so we can say, yeah, every year we do about 30,000, and it's hard to track.
It's a different schedule that we could put together to show it, because it's going into a different fund. As Cheryl said, that the payments are going out of a completely different fund, which has been depleted.
Okay.
So this one will bring it back up. So we can do
Our
a,
budget book, the special project fund.
yes.
So if let's see, Josh, where's the special project fund?
It's not a budgeted fund. Yeah.
It's all
Okay,
very.
so I think that's the issue we're dealing with, is that we don't see, so we don't know that there's a fund that's growing. And so we want a mechanism to be able to see it in a budget process. So we understand, you know, how much has this grown? I'm thinking back to insurance funds and things like that, because, you know, obviously it's in our audited financial statements, but as we go, because this is a new way we're looking at it, we're not going to know, oh, we're budgeting, you know, in 5 years, oh, we're going to put another 15,000 in, and oh, but the fund is 120. We're just relying on someone telling us annually. So we'd like a place to see it.
Okay, we can put that schedule together with the whole, like a history over 5 years of what's happened in that particular fund.
I mean,
to
could you
view it.
even, like, within their expenditures, could you basically say, you know, for this general, transfer in or pay, you know, just like paid out of general fund this much for this assistance? You know, you could have, like, you guys could have as a line item you're requesting it, and then we could also show that, you know, that basically this much came from the town to fund this. I know it's not through Health and Human Services.
I mean, I
but
think that's
happens.
something we could.
Just
get
even
right on
tidy it up.
Munis, Like
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
something we can put into
And
munis.
just a sheet as one of your slides.
Right.
Balance of
The
this
special project
account.
one, Right.
Yes.
and show the history just as a slide, so we understand every year where it is. So the current balance in that special project fund is about 20. So we'll have
Don't
about
remember it
35.
offhand.
1 second. It looks like we have about 36,000 currently, but we're going to be spending at least another 17 or 18,000 over the next 6 months.
Okay.
So yeah, it will bring it down to about 15,000.
Okay.
And on average, like I can even print that out from Munis or something. On average, we spend between like 30 and 37,000 a
Yeah,
year.
so that'd just be a good,
We'll send it out to you. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
that just
What
in
came
the
in, what
budget
went out.
No, and I can
presentations
add
going
that to the-
forward. We should
add
just
that.
add that.
I'll add that slide.
And we might as well let people know we do this,
Yes.
right? So
It'll
Donations.
help with the donations maybe, right? People know that we're helping. Okay, great. Thank you.
This is our Human Services Agency's expenditures, which I sort of went through on the larger slides, but you can take a look at the decreases at 34% coming out of.
Really
New
not a
Canaan's.
decrease.
No, right. but
Taxpayer
it's-
decrease, but not a
it's
decrease to the
right,
groups.
it's for the actual town. Coming out of the town's wallet.
Yeah.
but- And the end.
Well, I know, Marcy had to step in sort of very quickly with not a lot of training. And she's done a great job sort of pulling it all together
you.
and at the same time being responsive to our community of residents who need her support and the agencies.
I
So
really
thank you.
appreciate.
I
that.
appreciate all
I
of
appreciate
your
it. Thank
efforts
you.
on behalf of the community. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's not very fancy, but yeah,
That's-
I got
that's
my point.
It's a big bang for the buck for our contributions.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
town. So,
okay,
you.
Thanks,
thank
Marcy.
you. So we, in general,
9:06, pretty good.
I'm waiting. I'm like, is this gonna be another 1 o'clock in the afternoon? All right, Jen. So Jen's on page 8.
Josh is gonna have to pull it up and won't. Something wrong with it. Can you drive it or can I drive it? Okay. I think you'll just figure it out. All right, so this is Jen Ileson, obviously, I'm Director of Health. You can go to the next one. Mission statement: it is the mission of the Health Department to control preventable diseases through education, inspections, and monitoring by enforcing federal, state, and local laws, codes, and regulations for maintaining and promoting public health. So by Connecticut General Statute, every local health department has to provide basic health services. The state health department has adopted the national standard of the 10 essential public health services. And this is a chart showing those 10 essential services with equity in the middle. Next slide. Summary of our major responsibilities. Responsible for carrying out and enforcing all aspects of the Connecticut Public Health Code and Connecticut General Statutes pertaining to public health. We license and inspect all food service establishments, hair and nail salons, cosmetology businesses, public pools, and by public pools, that's both the clubs and then condos are considered public pools. Septic and garbage trucks, private wells, daycares, lead inspections and septic inspections and soil testing. And review all building permits for properties on septic systems and our private wells. We're responsible for public health emergency preparedness, the CDC required deliverables, provide case management of all New Canaan children found to have an elevated blood lead level of 3.5 microgram per deciliter or greater, manage infectious diseases. We provide written comments for all P&Z and Inland Wetland Commission applications for properties on septic and or commercial properties that are licensed, regulated by the Health Department. And we respond to and investigate various complaints from landlord tenants and general housing complaints. Next. Oh, I can. Thanks. It doesn't.
Yeah, you're doing it. You're
Good.
moving forward and
Uh,
backward.
It's not moving my mind.
Now you have to
Two
look
hands.
Oh, you don't have to-
I can't even see.
You're gonna have to look to the side.
Oh. So I guess we're on OpenGov Analytics. Good thing I printed this. So as I promised all the boards last year, this is, it covers, obviously straddles over 2 fiscal years, but just to show the full year, November 1st, 2023, we went live with OpenGov, with the 5 departments, that's health, building, planning and zoning, inland wetlands, and engineering. So you see the numbers associated with that full year. I do want to point out that revenue collection does include the state fees and the affordable housing fees. So don't get too excited seeing the 1.85. It's, about 275,000 of that is affordable housing and state fees. So it's more like 1.6 million across the 5 departments.
We can get excited about 1.6. That's good.
Yeah, it's still very good.
And it's helping with, reducing workload.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And just transparency in general. So now the permits have to go through all the departments. We can see everything all on the screen. So as you'll see in later slides with the stats, like our review of building permits went up significantly and our revenue went up because of that. This is just the health department's breakdown of what I can pull out in reports of OpenGov. You can really drill down, which is what I love about it, is all the reports that you can get out of it. Where we used to keep 9 million spreadsheets trying to keep track of everything. You don't need to do that anymore. It creates the spreadsheets for you. Then the count total down below where it says, building department 4950, health department 640. The 640 is just the health department permits that we issue. So septic, well, restaurants, not including the 500 plus building permits that we review. So that will show on the next slide when we go to permit inspection data. So for 2023 to 2024, the actual, so if you go down to building permits, we went from 397 in the year before to 565. So it was quite a jump with the OpenGov.
So quick, much quicker turnaround time for people.
Oh, yeah, and it's simultaneous review where before, if it's before me, say it was with, Kathleen or Maria, and they're the only people that do it and they're out for a week, that permit didn't move because that person wasn't here. Now all the departments are reviewing at the same time. So it goes much faster. It went from 6 to 8 week building permit review to now a week. And that's max.
Wow, that's nice.
And the applicant can kind of see where they are in the process. So they don't have to call,
Transparent.
they can go in and see where they are.
Or they would call, oh, I was told the health department's holding it up. No, we, approved it back then, but they can see all that out. And they can add on the homeowner they can add on the architect, they can add on, so everybody can see, and even the homeowner can see where their permit is in the process and that they actually have a permit, because we've had that issue in the past as well.
That's great.
So it's, and they can submit 24/7. They don't have to care about what hours we're open. So,
The
it's-
change in efficiency is unbelievable. That's amazing.
yeah, I mean, and we all love it. Everybody is very happy with it. Even the ones that weren't so keen about getting it now see how much it's made everybody's lives easier, especially on the data entry part. They're doing the data entry. And for like the admins, Deb and them used to have to scan the big maps. She'd have to come over to town hall, use one of the big machines. Now, because it's all scanned and added as an attachment, she copies and pastes right in the docs on demand, and it's immediately available online. So it's made every part of the process faster. So we couldn't be happier with that. Next, we'll talk about the public health emergency preparedness. So we just started July 1, budget year 1 of the next 5-year FEP contract cycle. That's a grant that we get from the state health department. It's based on population, which we've all been arguing about, because no matter what, we all have the same deliverables, whether you have 150,000 residents in Stamford or 21,000 here. But the way they give the money goes by population. So we currently get $11,393. That allows me to hire part-time Nick Jossam for roughly 4 hours a week. So it helps me, for him to be able to keep up to date the different plans that we have, the different annexes that we have. And then takes one less thing off, or attend a meeting if I can't attend the meeting, and that we still get credit for it. Nick is also the regional coordinator for public health for all of the 14 towns in Region 1. He has a master's of science degree in emergency management. He also has an extensive work history in the fire department, so he's very versed in emergency management and incident command in general.
So I'm just curious, so Nick, where's his main job? And does he do a bunch of these, like 4 hours here, 4 hours there for all these different communities?
Regional coordinator, so he gets a big chunk right off our top. See, the 11,393 is what's left after they take a chunk off to pay the regional coordinator.
He's paid by the state. He's a state.
Well, yeah, he's paid by the,
I'm just curious. It's just that somebody with that skill set has 4 hours to hang out here versus,
right. And then he's also Darien at 4 hours, but the chunk of his pay is as the regional coordinator. And then for him, he used to also work in the fire marshal's office in Darien, but for him with his schedule and picking up his kid, this has worked out better for him. Okay. And then he also owns on the side a business, All Hazards Preparedness, who also does plans and all that stuff across the state.
Yeah, I may just ask, because someone with the skill set to be able to grab 4 hours from there's got to be.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of like an independent contractor who does a bunch of
much like he doesn't like come into the office
Yeah.
at set time.
Does he get to, this is just a weird question, but so if he's attending a meeting for you as New Canaan rep, but he's also a Darien rep.
Yep, he can say it's for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can say it's for both. Like Mike Vincelli, who's Aspetuck Health District, which is Westport, Weston, Easton, is also Wilton. He'll say, and Fairfield. He's also part-time for Fairfield. So Mike Vincelli will say, I'm Fairfield, Wilton. Yeah. Good gig. These are the capabilities that the CDC has for public health preparedness, that the state then crafts what the deliverables are with CDC. Community health. Community health is a medical specialty that focuses on the physical and mental well-being of people in a specific geographic region. It's an important subsection of public health, includes initiatives to help community members maintain and improve their health, prevent the spread of infectious diseases, and prepare for natural disasters. So community health, some of the things that we've been doing, and we continue to do. We partner with Dr. El DeMole, who now has a practice in town in New Canaan for skin cancer screenings. We actually just did one 2 weeks ago at Schoolhouse, January 6th. We do QPR monthly, which is suicide prevention training at the library. Dr. Ruskowski, who's our new medical director, she has partnered with us in the past and currently to do TikToks and various other talks, both at LAPM and at the library.
It's not TikToks.
None of us are dancers, so I wish I was, gonna make some good money. And we do coffee talks at LAPM on various topics, whatever, is on the minds of their clients over there. We also partner with Staying Put frequently, about every other month, to do lunch and learns by whatever topic that they want. And then Staying Put will pay for the lunch portion. And then that's been great. So my nurse Ellen does that with Shannon. And then Dr. Ruskowski did one too with osteoporosis. That was a big hit and sold out.
Jen, can you, because I never quite understand. So like with the QPR training, so is that completely just under health and not, you don't partner with human services on that part of it? Like how do you distinguish? Because like, to me, that piece seems a little bit more like a human services, the UAP type of thing. So how do you guys break it, or what?
Well, QPR became ours because of an unfunded mandate, a public act.
Okay.
So that's usually how we get things.
Okay.
Because
Okay, now I got it.
Because in the larger cities, health and human services are one department.
Okay.
Where in the smaller towns, they're separated out. But when they pass these things in the legislature, it usually just ends up right at the health department. So after they did that, they did pay for the funding for the certification to become the trainer. So Shannon and I both had to take that to get certified. And then once that was up, now other towns that want to do it have to pay. And it's expensive, about $700 a person for that course. But no, you're very correct that these things travel. And Marcy does attend a lot more of our stuff, especially at Schoolhouse, because there's so many that are our clients.
Right.
So we do have that partnership with Human Services. Marcy's been great to work with, so it's been very helpful.
As long as it works, I don't care, but I just.
Yeah. And let's see. Shannon was also certified. Aggie requested Shannon's assistance with all the changes in human services to make sure that there was enough people. Shannon wanted to do it. She loves working with the clients over there. They know her very well. So she, in October, was officially certified, and then every Thursday, she would spend the day at LAPM doing the choices counseling. Her and Ellen also do what we've now called health screenings. Before, we just did the blood pressure. Bethany was doing the blood pressure clinics, and then when Bethany retired, we took over the blood pressure clinics, and then we just decided to combine it into one called health screenings to minimize, Ellen having to keep going back and forth. It just made to be more efficient. Plus, most people getting their blood sugar tested wanted their blood pressure tested anyway, so it just made more sense to be efficient. We like to be efficient. So
How many people use that? I mean, because people have doctors and.
We do have, on the future slide, I do
Okay,
have
we'll wait. It's fine.
some of the numbers. And then we started a walking club in June 1st of 2024 to help with social isolation, the Walking for Wellness Club. Even in the winter, we're still getting a good solid base. So that's been good news. Yeah, I said to Shannon, good luck with that. My soil testing was canceled, so I'm very happy. But that's also like a free activity. So it doesn't cost the town anything, doesn't cost them anything, but it gets them to, meet each other, and they even meet now outside of the walk-in club, because some of them have gotten to really get to know each other, which is the whole purpose of it. You're not really getting that much physical activity for the 1 hour a week, you know? We're not here to. And then this is just a list of some of the events that we held in the last year and topics, various topics that we've done. Pretty much runs the gamut. And then we try to do everything we do at Lapham. We try to replicate at Schoolhouse because they don't have transportation, and that whole part of the equity, making it fair to both. And then here's the community health numbers that Amy was asking for.
Sorry.
Now, I will, admit we weren't very good about keeping the numbers until July 1st. So this is July 1st till December 31st, because our commission now asks for these numbers. So I just went back and copy and pasted so you can see how it breaks down. And it depends like on the talk, because some talks, like the osteoporosis in September was a huge hit. You got 50 people to go to the one thing. Some things that, are not so big, you only get 10 people. The blood sugar, blood pressure is generally the same people that go, but sometimes you get some new ones. The talks are a lot of new people. It's not the same people going again and again and again, which is good, especially when we partner with Staying Put, even of their own clients, depending on what the talk is. Like we just did one last week on Alzheimer's that wasn't meant to be a big one, and it ended up being almost 40 people. It was meant to just be the 10 coffee talk, but so many people called Aggie that we had to move it and make it bigger. So you just never know what's going to resonate. Sometimes we think this is going to be a huge one and not so much. So it's always interesting to see. And then the nitty gritty of our actual budget. Now, the overall is, negative 0.04, but I do want to point out like part-time. So it used to be 45, that included 25,000 for the medical director. Dr. Reed retired. The new salary is less than that. And then there was a clerical that we had for years because of COVID, but with OpenGov and everything, we don't need that extra part-time person, but we do need to keep the nurse. And the grant for the nurse, Amy, I know you don't like this, but the grant is running out on June 30th. So we would like to keep her at 10.5 hours a week. And that would keep us at what's being proposed would keep us at the 10.5 hours, which we think would work with the health screenings and the talk. And then, Shannon doing more of the scheduling of vaccinations or whatever, and just kind of compressing it more instead of it being so.
That's under part-time, salaries part-time.
Where before, last year was 45. This year, we're proposing 27.
Because what?
Because we had the reduction from Dr. Reed
Oh, that's right.
retiring.
Okay.
And then there was a slight decrease in overtime, and then everything else is pretty much.
Mhm.
And so you guys bring in 170,000.
So yeah, we'll go next to
Oh,
the revenue.
Sorry about that.
So revenue, I'm proposing a slight increase of 8.37%. Plan review is the building permits. And it's because of the building permits of the increase, but I don't want to go too crazy in case we don't hit that. So I thought a modest split it in half, increase of 10,000 would be good. So yes, we bring in.
I think you gotta be careful on that, because with your new system, you're able to process them quicker. So your backlog of building permits may be less going forward. If you're processing them in a week versus 4 to 6,
Yeah,
you kind of maybe pulled stuff forward that would have maybe pushed back. you know,
Right, and the revenue that's shown here year to date is July 1 to January 5th.
Mhm.
That's about the halfway point.
Mhm.
And our busiest time is spring.
Okay.
So March to June is really when the building permits and septic skyrocket. And it's May and June when we do the salons and we do the trucks and we do the pools. The pools, the public pools, there's 20 that are actually paid, not including Waveney, because
And we just increased, we all approved increases to the permits recently. Yours weren't, well, that was inland.
that was
wetlands
last
and-
year.
Okay.
Ours was last year, but that plan review also includes the pool permits, which there's 20 public pools, including the condos at 400 per permit, so that's 8,000. That's included in that number.
Well, we're still below 24 actuals. Your plan review number, so I don't think it's a.
Right, I did 10,000 less,
Mhm.
but 10,000 higher. I split the difference. Just because of the way the revenue was
I mean,
November 1 to
Sure.
November 1, it was, you don't have a true fiscal year yet.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
This year, we'll have a true fiscal year for next year to know, are we really looking at 80,000 for that one every year?
Yeah.
If so, then we can bump it up again next year. But I always like to be conservative and not underachieve, but overachieve.
We like that.
And you've upped the budget for restaurant
Yeah, I
permits.
saw
too.
that too.
So,
We do have more restaurants.
well, that's, I mean, but that's,
More restaurants that because of higher fees.
It was a higher fee a year and a half ago, but because of the temp events going down at Waveney because of this unknown with constructions, we haven't been able to really capitalize on that added revenue yet. Because once all the temp events can be there and all the construction's done at Waveney, that number will be even higher. Because it's kind of offsetting. The higher restaurant fees is offsetting what we're losing in temporary event fees.
Oh, but so the restaurant permits includes the temporary.
Yeah, all food permits.
Yeah, it's not like we have, all these restaurants. It's more that's just permit for an event.
Although they keep some of them keep turning over.
Increase in restaurants is offsetting the decrease in temporary permits.
Where eventually, when everything's done at Waveney and you're back to that number of events, then it will be a higher number.
Right, but those aren't, it's not a big number, right? You don't. get
No,
charged.
because it's only a
not.
$50
It's tiny.
permit.
Yeah.
But it's a couple thousand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're not talking
Big bucks.
big bucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we like. Do you have any questions?
great
I know.
presentation, Jen. I
Very good
mean, from start to
presentation.
finish. I love the new spreadsheets that you're giving us. It's really great. Good stuff. And the efficiency of the new program is incredible.
And you were
Can't wait
kind
to see
of
that.
one of the driving forces behind us going to Open Gov, right? So thank you for that. She was the driving force.
You've basically taken us into the next century because we were,
Yeah.
back a bit here. So thank you for doing that.
Moves beyond carbon paper. That's good.
Exactly. You should have seen when I came here, Briggs was really like, we were literally in the 70s.
Back
Well
to the
done.
future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
All right, so where's my agenda? So the next one is emergency medical services. Maybe, right?
Turn on that bright light.
Okay, so that's page 11.
Good morning.
So we don't have anything to project because I think we're really talking about just a handful of numbers.
Just introduce yourself. one
Oh,
more time.
sorry, Alec Montgomery and John Knight, President and Treasurer,
And our newest member of the Human
Human Services
Services
Commission.
Commission too.
That
So we're just going to talk through the operating budget and then a couple comments on the capital budget as well.
Okay.
I'll let you do the talking,
Sure.
John. 'Cause-
In terms of the operating budget, the paramedic service contract, it's a 5-year contract, and I think this would be year 3 of the contract, and it's a fixed amount, $465,000 per year for each of the 5 years. The second is that we used to get something called a town contribution, but last year we divided it into some, at the request of the first selectman woman, to be more specific about what the money was funding. And so we broke it out in terms of vehicle repairs and maintenance and medical supplies and equipment. And for this year, we were just asking for a 3% increase from the amounts from last year. These numbers don't fully fund our costs for these items, but we cover the rest with the annual donations that we get through our annual appeal. So, and the numbers vary dramatically for us. So as an example, this year, we purchased 2 new power loaders, which were $60,000. So it all varies, but from the town's perspective, we're very comfortable with this amount to help us support the vehicle repairs and maintenance and the medical supplies. And then the last item is the information services, which is for our dispatching and patching services. And that's a fixed number that we get from the Southwest sort of coordinating council, and it's done based on sort of population. And so this is the amount that is proposed for fiscal year 26, and that gets paid in July by the town. And that it represents roughly a 3% increase as well over last year in terms of their costs. And then the other numbers are ones that are provided by the town in terms of the property and the contribution and all the rest of it, the electricity.
We gave you that fuel oil number last year.
Yeah, all those numbers are given to us.
Okay, great.
So we pay all the utilities. We just
Yep.
allocate it
Yep.
to these guys.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That's good. Looks like you were more appropriately allocated this year.
Those are the sort of the ones that we have control over.
No, I mean, this is great. I mean,
It's
I
beyond
mean,
great. It's beyond great. It's a
the
volunteer.
value
Volunteer,
for
and it's-
service is like through the roof,
Yeah,
so.
and then you're talking about a decrease in the budget for you know,
Yeah.
for what you guys do. It's unbelievable.
No, that's great. So why don't we move on then to your capital budget, 126.
Capital budget, a couple of things versus last year. One is that we've moved the requests forward a year. So we have one ambulance which is on order and it's been on order. And instead of the normal sort of 6 to 12 months, it's taking 3 to 3.5 years.
Oh, right. We did.
And so what we did because of that, and because the backlog has shrunk a little bit, but it's still significant time with the vendors, is that we moved the request for the ambulances are on a 3-year cycle. So each of them was sort of a 9-year life. We moved one from 26-27 to 25-26, and then one from 29-30 to 28-29. And then based on the estimates that we've been getting in terms of talking to vendors, it looks like it's going to cost closer to the 390,000 rather than the one that we have on order for 280. Yeah.
Wow.
And we've gone out and talked to multiple vendors, and these are apparently the new reasonable numbers.
And are they vastly different rigs?
No, they aren't. Apparently, the problem is that during the pandemic, they lost a lot of the labor, skilled labor that knows how to outfit the ambulances with the
Could be.
cabinets and everything.
Yeah, could be.
And that's the cause of the delays. And I'm
Haven't
not
come
sure
back.
if that's the cause of all of the costs. I mean, some of that's obviously the powertrain. You know,
So
it's-
are you pulling this forward because you expect to get it later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're pulling it forward for budgeting purposes and to be able to get the contract, but we figure we aren't going to get it any earlier. And at least the one that's on order that was budgeted at 280, we're expecting that may come in at 290, 280, but it's going to be very much along the same lines of what we budgeted for.
So the one that's currently on order that we got it approved over a year ago. I mean, that, we're sort of stretching the useful life of that third rig that was due to be replaced. But once we get through these next two ambulances, we should be back to a normal cycle of 9-year useful lives of the current fleet.
How are those units performing right now, the ones that are in the?
You know, it's just a question of
The maintenance bills have
repair and
gone up,
maintenance. Yeah.
but they're functioning well.
Yeah, and that third one is actually probably, it's a diesel, so I theoretically, that means it's longer lived, but we don't order diesel trucks anymore. So
No.
it's the last of its kind.
So when we order a truck or rig, whatever you call it, how does it work? Do we pay like half up front? And,
No, that's the good news. We don't pay anything
Oh, till it
until it's
comes in.
actually delivered.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I find amazing too, because there's three
There's a
years
major
of working
contract.
capital here that apparently is going into that higher price.
But all of the new LED lights, the electronics, all that stuff is just more expensive than in the past. And finding the labor to install all that stuff too is crazy. So when you look at these numbers, yeah, it's $300,000 for what that vehicle will do and the lives that it'll save and what it does for the
It's
community.
more than, it's almost 400.
Yeah, well,
It's like
Hey.
300.
it's not 400, yeah. I was thinking of the old one at 300, but I don't know that we have a choice, so.
And when you first moved to town, like I remember when we first moved, we had like when a kid had to go to hospital, right? And like you're young, you don't realize that like typically you get a bill for that.
Yeah.
You just don't. And it's like you have to wake up later going, oh my God, I never got a bill for that. You know, so it's amazing.
And they don't get a bill for the ALS services either because of the paramedic contract.
Right.
Where some of the other towns, they don't bill for the ALS services, but they do bill for the ALS. services.
Occasionally you may get a bill if we don't have a backup crew able to
Yes.
respond to a backup call and a mutual aid unit comes.
Either Stanford or Norwalk comes, yeah.
In general, you don't get a bill. Oh, yes, okay.
Okay.
But it's important, for people to know, I mean, in the past, some of the presentations we've had over the years that we've seen have included the number of volunteer hours represented in a given year. And some of the stats that we've seen over the years have been absolutely unbelievable. The amount of hours that are put in locally to this organization, every time you look at it, it's just amazing. So please bring back the thank you from the town and from our board, because it's every day, every night, 24/7. We're covered by you guys, by volunteers. It's really an amazing story. So thank you.
Yeah, and you know, when you go talk to the Board of Finance and Town Council, put those numbers in.
Right.
You might as well let people know, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. And all the emergency preparedness events that you participate in, I mean, between being at the fireworks and things like that, but also in the, in sort of our preparation for things. I was just in a meeting last week with the police and EMS, and so, and that's all volunteer hours. Those aren't people. So thank
This
you.
is not the time to be modest. Let people know.
This is the one group that the first time I sat through town council when I was very young, one of the older members said, listen, you guys can sit down, but you have me at hello. So, it doesn't matter what you say. I mean, everything you're doing is amazing. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So police.
Hey, I have a question. Set her up.
I don't know. I'll have to
Morning,
tell.
guys.
Oh,
I was just looking at.
Really?
Wow, that we went on with them and most of them were
All right, so Page 9.
pretty
days.
amazing.
3 a day, right?
You doing the animal control too in this presentation? Okay, good. All right, so start on let's see, page 9. Great.
How come it's so easy for you? Just pop right on there.
I make it look easy.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, we're gonna start with animal control. It's a pretty straightforward budget request. Um, Real quickly, we have one full-time animal control officer. He handled 969 calls for service last year. And that's anything and everything animal related, bear and bobcat sightings, coyote sightings, animal bites. And he does a significant amount of community education, wildlife awareness and that sort of thing, to help people get rid of coyotes and nuisance wildlife on their properties and those sorts of things. And then we have the pound where we oftentimes take in an animal, a cat or a dog. But he does a pretty good job for us. He's full-time position, and the budget request for the animal control, total animal control, is 98,679. That is a slight reduction from last year, 1.8%. But if you remember last year, it used to live in two separate budget items. It was a dog fund and then the animal control. We consolidated those last year, so everything's kind of leveling off now. It's just one budget item with the all of the line items consolidated into that one animal control budget request. And we've got rid of the part-time position. When Sean came on board, we brought him on as a part-time when Allison was phasing out to transition him in. So that's why we see a slight reduction in his budget this year.
Oh, because we didn't have duplicating people.
Yeah, there wasn't an overlap. There wasn't any training. So this was kind of just, now we're just going forward with just him. He's one full-time position. We don't have any part-time positions or anything like that.
Can you remind me, what are like actually hours for animal control? Is it just regular business hours?
He works generally Monday to Friday,
Uh-huh.
regular hours. And then if there's something that comes on the weekends, our officers will handle it. If it is something that's an impound, our officers will generally take it and bring the animal in, impound it. If the animal looks like it's going to stay with us for more than 24 hours, they'll notify Sean, and he could come in and make sure the dog or animal's properly fed.
So he covers off hour stuff.
He covers
Yeah.
if it's extended. If it's something that is just a roaming dog and the people are notified and they'll come in and get it within a couple hours, he won't come in for that. Our officers will handle that if it's the off hours. But generally speaking, he'll work mostly Monday to Friday schedule, unless there's something going on the weekend, an event or something like that he needs to attend. He can adjust his hours for that.
Okay, so he's fluid when it's needed. He'll
Yeah.
jump around his hours.
Yeah.
A salaried position, so he's
Yes,
just been treated
exactly.
salary.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's hit the ground running. He's out there. You see him all over the place. Sean's done a great
he's
job.
great.
He's, and everybody that I've talked to that's interacted with him really enjoys he's really doing a great job. So,
You know what? I missed this one in our early. So I'm looking at the postage budget. These are nits, I know, but every nit counts.
Yeah.
The postage, so we had a budget last year of 2,500. We revised it down to 500. And now it's back up to 2,500 and we've only spent $6 this year on postage.
Was that for under?
It's on animal control.
Yeah, that can definitely be reduced. We don't need that.
Back to the 500 from last year, the revised budget. Okay, so we're going to take $2,000 off. Okay. And then same deal with the, we revised the supplies office. It was 1,600. We revised it down to 100 and now it's back up to 1,600. What do you want me to put that at?
Most of his stuff comes out of our budget, so that can go back to maybe the 100. He gets maybe some
Okay.
promotional stuff, stickers and stuff like that, but very, very little.
Okay. And then the uniforms and equipment, because I think contractually is it like 750 or something? Is he part of that?
He's not
contract?
part of that, no.
He's not part of that. So what do we need $1,000 for uniforms and equipment? He spent 100.
So it's not just his uniforms, it's if he needs a dog snare or leashes or that sort of stuff. So that
We'll look at it for one more year then. I'll just leave it there and we'll see how it goes. All right, so we're down from the 100 on the, you got that, Josh?
postage and
No, it's 500 now. It's down 2,000. Okay, sorry. And then they, supplies is 100.
Supplies office, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we went over that in our,
Yeah, I don't think we did, because I'm like, wait, how did I miss that? All right. And then there's capital. Any other questions from anybody?
No.
All right, so then there's capital for animal control on 126.
no, he doesn't have any capital. No.
You have it in that, my little sheet. I'm like, I must have missed it in the budget. I mean, okay, so never mind, go
Yeah.
on. So are we gonna move on to your budget then, page 9?
Yes. So for PD, we handled well over 15,000 calls of service last year. Always ranging from anything from location checks, school checks, fraud, identity theft complaints, family disputes, larcenies, burglaries. As I said, 1,400 medical assist calls. So we respond along with the volunteer ambulance corps. 30, close to 3,400 motor vehicle violations. We're happy to see those numbers steadily increasing from COVID. Motor vehicle stops were way down, and with motor vehicle stop enforcement, that encourages people to drive slower. It discourages criminals from coming into town when we're highly visible and out there making motor vehicle stops. It just generally makes everybody safer. Over 800 alarm response calls. So that's just a quick snapshot of some of the highlights for our calls for service last year. And that's been consistent throughout the years of what we're focusing on. Some of the community efforts, we are continuing with our community impact officer downtown. That's been a big success, establishing relationships with the business owners and the residents and the folks that come into town to frequent our downtown areas. We're looking forward to continuing that into this year with Officer Adams. He's our new downtown officer that's been assigned to that position because Nicole, who was doing it, is moved to South School as the SRO for one of the new elementary SROs for the elementary schools. We January 1st, 2nd, we implemented the SROs into all of the elementary schools. So now all of our public schools have full-time school resource officers in them. What allowed us to do that was we hired the 3 new officers in 2024 to get us up to a full complement of 50. And that allowed us to put those SROs in those positions at the elementary schools.
So did you say that, was it all 3 elementary schools now have somebody full-time? Did you say one of the ones had it earlier?
I'm sorry?
Did one of the schools have it? Did I miss that?
The last year we had one officer that covered all 3.
Yeah.
He rode between all 3 of them.
But in the fall, it was still roving? Or was somebody
Well, it was
assigned?
still roving just because the hiring process,
Sure.
I still had those 3 new officers that were still in the academy. They came out towards the end of the year. So once they came out of the police academy and went through their field training process, we were able to staff the schools with.
So it's really very new for the officers to be full-time in elementary schools. And I know
Yeah,
one of the
past 2
concerns was
weeks,
it was such
yeah.
small schools, how the officers would be engaged and busy all day.
Yeah.
So
So-
you haven't
so they-
really got a sense for that yet.
So they did start the school year in September, meeting with the schools, meeting with the principals, although they weren't fully immersed in the schools
Mhm.
in September. They did start to establish the relationship because that's so important that those first few weeks, first month of school, establishing a relationship with the staff and the students. So we did allow them to go there on their shift and try to integrate as much as they could while still maintaining their regular shift responsibilities. But as of January 2nd, they were full-time dedicated into the schools. So far, it's only been a few weeks, but it seems to be working out well. And last but not least, of course, the construction is going at 174 South Avenue. Glad to report that seem to be on time and on budget. Thanks largely to the Turner Construction and the building committee and hiring our owner's rep. I think the whole process has been so professionally done, and the oversight We have bi-weekly meetings and the updates are phenomenal. And, you know, you can see just through some pictures, the construction process. Turner's been very open and transparent throughout the process. They've allowed us to visit there at any time. And everything seems to be going along very, very well. We're looking forward to completing construction probably in a couple of months, and then begins the phase of turning all the lights on, turning all the systems on, getting everything fleshed out, working through punch list items, moving in the furniture, and then finally moving over our phone systems and the 911 systems. And we're hopeful to be living there and operational in June. So it's going on very, very well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, from a contingency standpoint, there's still a decent amount of money in the contingency. So hopefully,
It's around 1.3,
yes.
1.
So hopefully, you know, you're far in the process. A lot of stuff's already been queued up. So hopefully, you know, it'll wrap up under budget, which would be a bonus.
Be great. That'd be great. And of course, here are some of our other events: Coffee with a Cop, and some of our officers visiting the elementary schools, reading, and some food drives, and some safe driving awareness that our SROs and our officers do in the schools. And there's our 3 new SROs at the elementary schools. Officer Vituli is at South School. Shane Gibson is over at West School. He was our roving SRO, so he's got a lot of experience with all the schools. And Officer Ron Bentley is over at East School, where he went to elementary school. So it was kind of a nice fit.
Oh, that's cute.
That is cute. Officer Gibson looks very different these days.
Yes. That's scruffy.
It's like it's catching. He's got a beard now.
I can't do it.
Wow, there's a trend.
Josh,
I know. Get Russ.
There's a brief summary of what the school resource officer program looks like. So, you know, it's a significant, it's almost like its own squad or shift. There's 5 officers. They're supervised by the youth sergeant, who they report to our investigative commander, and then ultimately to Deputy Chief Walsh. So it is we do consider it its own specialized unit, and they do operate as a squad, and they oftentimes can fill in for each other. Officer D currently is out for a little bit of an extended period of time, so Officer Gibson covers the high school. So it's nice to have that staffing there to be able to fully cover all the schools, give them all the attention that they deserve, and ultimately protect our most valuable asset of this town. Getting into our operating summary, the full operating request is $8,014,143. That is a increase from last year by 4.28%. Largely due to I added in the overtime lines, the 6 or so overtime lines, I did increase those by the 2.5% for salary increases, contractual salary increases. We typically see the salary, the full-time salaries and everything is given to us by the finance department, but the overtime lines are left to me to increase. So I just increased those by 2.5%. I did increase the training a little bit more because we are transitioning to new firearms this year, and that's going to be some considerable amount of training required for that. And due to the fact that we don't have any facilities in the immediate area to train for firearms, we have to send all of our officers up to Wallingford for that training. So it's a couple of days of training going up to Wallingford. So that is going to be a significant impact on our training budget.
Gee, is that the closest location, Wallingford?
Yeah.
Is it because of a certain certification that has to be done, or is it?
No, there's just not a lot of facilities. We used to go to a place in Danbury, but they severely cut their number of hours that they're open to police departments during the week. I think they're only open a day and a half this week and during the week. And it just, to have a facility that we could rent out and just exclusively use for our officers that's one of the closest places we can go.
Do you want to like maybe just do a little preview of what Westcog is working on and?
Yeah, Westcog and the Fairfield County Chiefs are working on doing a regional firearms training facility, much like we considered here during the building project, but we just couldn't really find the location for it. Kind of the same facility, an indoor enclosed facility where we could do both rifle and handgun training. The proposal is to build it in Newtown, behind the Newtown Police Department. They have the property. And currently the budget for that is approximately 14 or so million. And each town that wants to buy in would pay a portion of that, pay a share of that. So the more towns that get into it, the lower the cost would be.
And the earlier you commit, the lower your cost would be. So if you are one of the first towns to agree to be part of it, you get a slightly discounted rate too if you are a later entrant.
And I actually think if you're a later entrant, there's it's
Premium.
more expensive to offset the first group that signs on for it. It would be a great asset for us. It wouldn't be a huge cost savings in the sense that we would still have to input a considerable amount of money, but it would give us the security of having a location and not rely on a private range that could go out of business tomorrow, or they could say we no longer want to host police agencies. We just want to be open to the public, much like we experienced in Danbury. They could just arbitrarily cut back their hours and we have no place to go. So this would give us the security of having a law enforcement only facility that's run by law enforcement, regional law enforcement asset that we could go and there would be no cost increase to it. It would just be what we were allocated to pay, and that would be it. And we would have the security of knowing where we can go. Again, it's in Newtown, so it is a bit of a drive, but a lot of our officers kind of live up that area anyway. So it would be better than having to send all of our officers to Wallingford.
That'd be less in overtime training, right?
It would be.
They don't have to drive as far.
It would
You're
help.
gonna
It
save
would
there.
definitely
You're gonna
help.
save
We
there.
would get, instead of training our officers for 2 hours and then paying them for 2 hours travel time, we perhaps could train them for 3 hours and only pay them for an hour of training, travel time or something like that. So it would definitely benefit us. And I believe last week Westcog met with
Why you would have more training hours?
well, we usually usually a 4-hour minimum of training or 4-hour.
The police,
So-
because the contract is a 4-hour minimum.
So if we pull somebody in for training while they're off duty, it's usually a minimum of a 4-hour training block.
Okay.
That we have to pay them.
Got it.
Whereas, so now if we have to send them to Wallingford, we have a shorter window because we want to give them time to travel and we don't want to, unless we have to train them, we'll train them as much as we are required to. But with that in mind, we understand that we don't want to pay our officers an exorbitant amount just to travel back and forth. So we could get.
I'm not saving in overtime training. It's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it won't be a huge cost savings in that line, but overall, I think it will give us the security of having a place to go and not knowing where we want to go next year and relying on private partnerships. We're kind of at the behest of these companies and these businesses that may go out of business, may decide they don't want to have this anymore, may have a complaint from a neighbor and may get shut down, or who knows what could happen.
What kind of timeline are we looking at for this project? Do they have approvals and everything up there already?
I think the
I
town
had
of
to leave.
Newtown-
They were talking, I had to leave last week's meeting, so I'll call again. I have a contact up there, but you had a chiefs meeting the week before. On
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're still trying to solidify all the funding. The meeting last week was to meet with the state and hopefully get some more grant funding for the project, possibly cover the cost by half. So reduce it from 14 million to 7 million. So that 7 million would be shared among however many towns want to participate. So that would be significant. But believe the project is almost shovel ready. I think they have the location. I think they,
Which is one of the hardest things, is finding the location. right?
you know, it's literally behind the Newtown Police Department in the area where their transfer station, there's nothing really there. There's no neighbors. It's gonna be, it's an ideal location. It really is. So.
I really hope this moves forward. This is exactly what should happen. Nobody needs their own range. You know, and,
Right.
and I think it
No,
would save
you're
it,
right.
it would save us a lot of money versus trying to just build a range for our officers, which
Yeah.
would be hugely underutilized because you have 50 officers. I mean, you don't,
Yeah,
you know, you
no,
have, I mean, and that type of facility could be built with a little more optionality because you make it maybe more lanes and you can have your training for your cars and stuff like that. I mean, I really hope the state puts money in and that people sign up for this. I think.
Yeah,
just
and
makes
well, that's
all
the
the sense
beauty
in
of
the
it
world.
is the idea is to kind of build it basic so you can make the training facility what you need.
Yeah.
If you need to move cars, if you need to put temporary walls up to
Yeah.
simulate going through buildings or just qualify people on a straight lane, you have that flexibility. And that's something that you really can't get at a private facility because it's not purpose built for that. It's built for the public, not for law enforcement. So you're right. And this will get utilized.
This should be regional. I mean, regional, and I hope the state comes in with some money and it would, beyond the money, it's allows everybody to train better.
Yeah, agreed.
We're gonna have to take care of another building.
Thank God. Or try to cite it.
But it would come with like an MOU, or it almost appears like it would be a condo agreement or something where you own a piece of whatever it is.
Right.
And then, you know, you own it forever, right? I mean,
Right.
That's the idea. So
Yeah.
it's pretty
And you
good.
get certain hours.
The initial input, and then there's just the annual maintenance fees, which as other towns come in, they'll hopefully offset that. And again, as Deanna said, if you're the early adopters of it, you get that discount, you get that benefit of being the first town to buy into it. And those that come in later kind of get penalized for coming in later, and that penalty offsets our cost. So it would definitely be worthwhile to get in
What do
early.
you need to do to be queued up as one of the early guys? You
They
just have to,
know, they
yeah.
know we are interested.
Yeah, good.
Sent letters of
Good.
support that were
great.
interested, and yeah, I think on my end, on the chief side, and I think Deanna on her side.
I've contacted Westcog.
Yeah.
Let them
Yeah,
know.
good. That's
that we're
perfect.
Very
Perfect.
interested.
Good.
I have a note to myself to call again.
Hmm.
Note to self.
And Eversource, don't forget to call them. A lot of calls to make. So our operating budget, it did allow us to go up to 50 officers. So we increased from 47 to 50 last year. And shift shortages, that continues to be an obligation of ours that definitely impacts our overtime budgets. We'll get into that right now. Something that I don't like to highlight, but I feel like we need to highlight the overtime because it is something that recurs and it is a large chunk of our operating ask. And you can see here, so our scheduling software allows us to analyze where our overtime comes from. And it is traditionally, and last year was no exception, from shift shortages. We see shift shortages account for nearly half of our overtime costs. And that's something that I want to work this year with Deanna and Human Resources, because it's contract year, and work with the union, and hopefully we can find ways to not work so frequently with shift shortages and that require contractual overtime. Still want to provide opportunities for our officers, perhaps other areas where they can work and different assignments, but not all of these shift shortages that result in a high cost for us. And quite honestly, it's not good for our officers to just work with minimum shifts all the time, or shift shortages, or 16-hour shifts. We want to provide opportunities and assignments for our officers that we can get the most bang for our buck with them working. But these like ordering hours, those are significantly impact. The officers are working, the next shift is short for some reason, and then the officer has to stay for an additional 8 hours, and that's not that's not a best practice. So we want to do what we can to help mitigate that and work with our union during negotiations this year.
So the first line, shift shortage time off, is that just people's vacation time?
Vacation time,
gonna have
some sign, yeah, comp time is another big one. You know, it's accumulated time that
Comp time would be,
it's basically like vacation time. It's compensatory time. So if an officer works an assignment, they can choose to, rather than get paid overtime, they can take the hours and use them as time off in the future. And historically, we always kind of looked at those as a no-cost item, but the way the contracts kind of morphed, officers can use that comp time a lot more freely. So it does,
so that precipitates overtime.
it does trigger some overtime. It can, yeah. So we're gonna look at all those
What's the rate for overtime? Is it time and a half?
time and a half, yeah.
Yeah, because if you're gonna rank what what the public would perceive as like the number one reason why a police officer wouldn't be at work, it would be sick or, you know, training and it's interesting to see how low those numbers are. I mean, those are down the list, you know, injuries are low on the list. Obviously that's a good sign. But that number of 1922 up top is, that's the biggest number. And I'm imagining the order in is really when you actually have a situation where you have to call extra guys in, right?
Yeah, so that is a situation where
Just
the
understand.
next shift is short for whatever reason. They need to hire an officer. We go through all of the voluntary lists. Nobody accepts it voluntarily, so we have to take somebody that's currently working the shift and hold them over for the next shift.
But so does that mean somebody's working 20 hours in a row?
16 hours.
16 hours.
Yeah. Minimum 16 hours.
Well, and on a job like that where it's, you know, there's a lot involved.
Yeah,
It's a long day.
Yeah. And it's especially difficult if you're working the 3 to 11 shift and then get ordered in for the overnight shift and your body's not conditioned to stay up all night. And that's a very challenging thing for an officer to go through. So
When you're ordered in, is your travel time considered part of your
no,
hours? No.
yeah, just straight hours while you work. You know, the other, it unfortunately doesn't happen that frequently, but if you are working that 16 hours, that additional 8 hours, and you have a call that comes in late in that 8th hour and you have to stay longer, I mean, that's hours that are getting now tacked on to that 16 hours. So we try our best not to allow that to happen, but sometimes it does, and it is challenging. It is challenging for the officers, and you know, something that we definitely want to look at during negotiations.
Do we have, I'm sorry.
So I just did 5520 divided by 24. That's 230 days. When you look at it that way. So
Yeah.
5520 divided by 24, and you know, 230 days is a significant amount of time. I mean,
Yeah.
Right, but you know, people do have like a minimum vacation is
Yeah,
within
yeah.
that and stuff. How do we compare? I guess you could do it by hours or you could do it by cost to similar departments, and how, I mean, you're always going to have some overtime in a police force.
Yeah.
I mean, are we an outlier? Are we kind of how many departments?
It's really hard to compare apples to apples with other departments because the reasons that trigger overtime and staffing varies
Contractually,
and contracts are so nuanced and so written.
Interesting to know versus a similar sized force. You know, you could either do it by hours.
Yeah, I'll take a
or
look at like
your
Darien.
top line costs for salaries, and you know how much it would just
Yeah.
be interesting. And the
Yeah.
software still helps. Remember, we put that in
Yeah,
years
no,
ago,
this
right?
software is great because with a few clicks of a button, I can run reports and get this data, and
Mhm.
I can not only capture the hours, but I can also capture the cost, and that calculates it for us as well. But you know, I don't think we're too terribly different than towns our size of Darien's and Wilton's. But I can look into that further and see where we're at, and where they're at. And
I think
part of the contract process I'll be looking at those other towns and seeing if they're doing anything creatively that helps them reduce some of those costs.
Well, prior to the software, I think that number was actually higher than that. I don't know if you remember.
As a
that, but
percentage, yeah. Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
at least the numbers come down, but obviously it could come down some more if we.
Yeah. Yeah, we know we're not going to eliminate it, but we would like to get it manageable and operate as best we can, and utilize best practices and not expose our officers to working extended hours when they don't really have to or
Oh,
should.
and there's safety issues on both
Sure,
sides for
yeah.
the resident as well as the officer.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's, we gotta keep everybody safe.
So our overall overtime request, again, those 6 line items or 5, I'm sorry, 5 line items, is 616,5. Again, that's mostly just due to the 2.5% contractual pay increase. And then also I added a little bit more on the training line for the new firearms, which I'll get into in our capital request.
So it's, I would assume it's both the 2.5% contractual salary increase and the fact that we have more officers now.
Correct. Yeah.
And we don't have a contract, so we really.
Yeah, so I'm just ballparking that it'll be around 2.5%. So that's all I have for operating. If there's any other questions, or if you want to go through some of the other lines. You might notice some drastic increases or decreases in the percentages. That's because we consolidated a lot of lines and moved them to other lines. So you'll see some of them that are down 100% and other ones that are up 50. And that's due to, we closed out some of the older lines that were.
You know what? Sorry, John, I just was calculating something, so I wasn't focusing. So your overtime budget is, it looks like 4.5,
Right.
16. So it's not a 2.5 increase.
No, I calculated 2.5, but I also went up, like I said, in the training, which is showing a 12% increase.
Yeah.
So percentage wise, I think overall,
Yeah.
for those 5 lines, it's 4%, but the
2.5. Yeah.
salary, overtime, sick, traffic, all those other ones, I kept at 2.5%. The only one that I didn't was the training, because I know the amount of hours that we're going to need next year for the firearms.
Because it's really not that, it's not the training. Training's up. Well. 4. Yeah. Okay. Remind me why the training's going up so much.
We're getting new duty firearms and we have to train our officers, each officer 16 hours each. It's a new system.
Okay. All right.
So a little bit of this, the 4.28% overall. So some of that, it depends where your contract comes in, right? Some of this, the 2.5% increase, but it's also somewhat driven by the additional staffing and like the training. So like if you were to kind of guess going a year forward, would we be more kind of, more, assuming you can't change over time, it would be,
I think it would be
the
closer.
increase would be lower, right?
Yeah, probably like 2.5.
Right.
But
So I mean, some of this is the staffing adjustments, and the training.
more of it is also, you'll notice that there's service contracts. The service contracts went up 116%. That's because it was living over in our capital side. Those are for the body camera licenses. I think that was 40,000. We took that out of capital and moved that into our operating budget. So that was a large driver of the increase.
Okay, so if you netted that, I mean, just trying to do an apples to oranges comparison, and what one might expect next year if you don't have, you're not changing staffing and.
I would hope
guess it depends
I
on
would hope it to be closer to 3%.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of companies now are going to service contracts, and service contracts are.
You're at their mercy. Yeah.
It's outside of our control. And the other sort of larger variable was our utility costs, because we don't know what it's going to be in the new building. So those were kind of guesses that I got from Bill Osman, and we just plugged those in. So we're hopeful this, we'll have, a good full 6 months of living in the new building, and we'll see what our operating expenses are there for utilities. So hopefully that number will stabilize. So I won't promise 3% next year because that's a bit of a variable, the utility cost for the new building, but I'm hoping that being a new building, it'll be pretty efficient.
And does this include, and I know we talked about the full-time custodial person that's in here?
6.71 cleaning services are up. right?
Didn't we hire?
Oh,
some-
yes. So
some
yes,
full-time-
that includes a maintenance person that we currently have as part-time.
Right. going to-
That's a full-time position. So that's another 80,000 that's
Yeah.
adding to the,
Right, so some of the drivers of the increase,
so,
more in the
yeah.
4.28% versus like the goal is more like 3%.
yeah,
realize-
so we're
we
going
have
up.
More staffing of officers. We also have more administrative staffing, right?
Time
We have the
maintenance
utilities
position.
that are kind of an unknown.
and moving some contracts that were in
And moving some
capital.
countries that were capital over, just, I'm just trying to see if we can get like something that is more apples to apples compared to
Yeah,
year over
with
year.
all these consolidations, I think next year I would anticipate it to be closer to 3%.
Depending on how our contracts come out, yeah.
Right.
Chief, you've got a K-9 line here too that was
Yeah, we decided.
pulled in and pulled out. So there's 7,500 there. That isn't in this year's budget. That's,
That,
it was,
We should fund that.
yeah,
And
so,
it shouldn't be a donation.
no, so it's in there at 7,500.
Right.
We still have money in that donation K-9 fund that we're still gonna use. Good amount of money to get us through another year. Once that money dries up, this number will go up to, it costs about 15,000 a year to run the K-9 program. But we have enough money in the donation fund that we're gonna utilize that for another year. And then whenever that money runs out, we'll bump it up.
I'm just trying
But we're not soliciting, we're not
Yeah.
taking any more. I mean, if people want to send money in, they can, but we're not soliciting for donations. It's gonna live in our operating budget. We just want to use up the donated funds that were donated for that purpose until that money runs out, and then we'll fully fund it in the operating.
Want to move, any other questions, or we can move on to the revenue
Yeah.
side, page 22?
Next up is capital.
There's a 22. Hold on, Josh, am I wrong? Hold on,
22.
22. Yeah, there's a revenue, page 22, you have revenue. Did you not want to do that today? We can. It's down, you have it down 30%. Because your state grants are going down.
Okay, I didn't have that on here though.
Okay.
Josh, you moved straight against somewhere else, or?
Yeah, I think we consolidated most of the state grants that hit general fund into the finance department's line.
Yeah, I think that was that part of that consolidation meeting we had.
So, apples to apples, it didn't really, the revenues really aren't down. It's just put elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Are we gonna be okay on our false alarm budget revenue line? It says year-to-date November, we budgeted 20 grand and and we have 20, not that I'm proposing
Having
finding
false
people
alarms,
for their
yeah.
false alarms. I'm looking at what we budgeted.
People have gotten a lot better with that, or
So is this line item okay? We have 20 grand in there right now, and we're only at 2,100 this year, and last year we only got 11,000. The year before was 19,500 and 21,300, but I just want to make sure we're not over budgeting for revenue. Okay,
Yeah, good point.
okay. All right, all right, well, why don't we go over to capital then? Sounds like, so that's on page 126.
And capital is pretty straightforward. Request this year is 35,900, and significant part of that is for vehicles.
Can you remind me, John, is there anything that was in here, is in here this year that got pushed forward or added that wasn't, in the 5-year capital plan last year? I can't remember now.
No, no, this was all in this was all in the 5-year capital last year. The one thing that we did was consolidate the equipment and the vehicle changeover costs. Traditionally, we would do police vehicles, equipment, and the changeover costs as 3 lines.
Mhm.
We've consolidated all those into 1 line, the police vehicles. And so that should be done because that should all be included in the police vehicle cost and should be bonded appropriately. So you'll see those, that's just 1 line for 213.5, and that's for 3 vehicles.
Yeah, 3.
Hey, remind me what we did. Last year we did the catch-up.
Last year,
We paid for it a
2
certain
years
way,
ago, we received 7 vehicles because there was
Yeah.
or
We had 9 total, we got.
9. So and then last year, because we finally got the backlog, last year we only asked for 1 vehicle. And then this
So
year,
that was 2 years ago when we bought more.
yeah, well,
So
we received a backlog.
Yeah.
So last budget year, we only asked for 1 vehicle because we just didn't need them. And then this year, we're back on our cycle of 3 this year, 4 next year. And that's a good practice that seemed to work for us, that we rotate those frontline vehicles out and we purchase 3 new vehicles. And then to remind you that once they come off the front line, that doesn't mean we just get rid of them. We'll put them in a second line use. We'll give them to an SRO to have and park in front of a school, or we'll use them for side work, or if they're no longer useful to us, we can transfer them to another department in town, or if there's any value to them, we could trade them in. But usually by the time we're done with them, there's not a lot of trade-in value.
And didn't we have we paid for that 6 cars? We had some extra revenues. We didn't have to bond them all. Didn't we have like some funds?
There
that
was
we-
some from the extra duty fund.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You've got a line item for 7 new tasers, $217,000. Is there any way, obviously we'll be looking for ways to push some of this stuff off along the way, but do we need to do all 7 this time, or is there a way to?
For 17,000.
Yeah, 7 for 17.
Am I lining that up wrong? What's 217?
Let's see, 217.
So they're.
So that you're looking at the total for the 5-year.
Oh, you're
way at
going
the
out
end.
total for
Yeah.
the total, not
Yeah.
in this year, 17. Okay.
I don't know. I know it's a necessary piece of equipment, but
So Taser is another one of those companies that is gravitating towards the subscription model.
Yeah.
I put it off actually this year. They're another company that
Actually, next year.
has this, it's Model 7, and then we're coming out with the Model 10. We're no longer gonna give you
Service
tech
the old one.
support on it.
With the
Yeah,
new
yeah,
model?
And I'm actually kind of glad that we didn't transition to the newer Model 10, because that we just learned last week was classified by the ATF as an actual firearm. So that poses a lot of legal problems.
You have to do more training then?
Well, there's a lot of issues with that. If it's a firearm and you shoot somebody with it, what are
Oh,
the
I
legal
see.
ramifications of that?
Oh,
Right now, it's
wow.
not classified
So
as deadly force. Designation.
holds a lot to be fleshed out in the next year. So fortunately, we didn't go to that model. We're sticking with our current models, which I think are 7. But you can see in their 5-year budget, I've increased it substantially to 50,000 a year, because they're requiring departments to go to this subscription model. You're basically leasing the devices, and then if it breaks down, you go to them.
One manufacturer of tasers?
Yeah.
God, well, that sounds like a opportunity for someone who's,
It's, like Motorola does with the radios,
Lord.
Yeah.
no longer supported, and then you have to buy the new model, and Apple does it too with their iPhones and
that's
their
the line
computers.
that we haven't, if you look back 10 or 15 years ago, we never had a line item like that. Now all of a sudden it's becoming a bigger and bigger number.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The good thing is we put it off for a year. Fortunately, we did because with this new development with their latest model. So we're keeping it at 17,000 this year. And that's just to keep them current. The ones that are no longer supported, no longer serviceable, we'll replace them. And then you'll also see 60,000 for the new duty firearms. We started last year with this process, the transition. We got 10 last year. We're going to get the remainder this year. And with that, we're going to do considerable amount of training. These firearms come with a new sight system. They're optic sights. They're no longer iron sights. So it's a lot of training for our officers. It's a new weapon, and we're going to train up our officers on it. It's going to take at least 16 hours of training for each officer. So that's why my training over time was significantly higher, and you see the 60,000 here as part of that. But these should service us for another 10 years. We basically get a 10-year cycle out of our duty firearms. So the current ones that we currently have are 10 years old. So it's time to update them. And
What do you
refresh.
do with them? The old
We
ones?
sell them back to our wholesaler.
They don't destroy them or anything?
It's up to them.
Cycle.
Nice, they destroy
And
them.
when you get that revenue from selling it back,
It's part of the cost. They
do the.
they
so
process
it's-
it all
okay.
as part of the cost.
So it's just
not-
an offset.
Yeah.
Remind me of this mobile radio replacement, because it's like this year we've got a bump and then it goes back down. So last year was $5,000. This year it's 15 in the budget and it goes back down to 5. What was the reason for that bump this year?
Mobile,
coming out of?
Was mobile radio replacement?
New cars, but,
Because I mean, next year you're getting 4 cars and it's only $5,000. So I'm not sure what. It's,
that probably should, I should probably bump those up for the 5-year, but that's for 3 new ones.
so last year, did we just have 1?
Yes,
With one car.
with 1 car.
So
Yeah.
then does next year have to be 20?
I'll have to check with my IT.
If we can get that 5, because I'm just like, I really like to have the 5-year capital plan.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be
I
starting
just-
to ask, like, what's new this year?
It may
what's
not,
changed?
because the Tahoes, we may be able to transfer,
Oh, from one unit, take it out of one car and put it in.
depends on
another?
which ones can be
Okay.
transferred to the next car.
Okay.
yeah.
And again, it depends on if Motorola supports this model and not. So I'll take a closer look at the 5-year.
Okay, that'd be great. Just, I mean, it's not relevant for this year. So
Right.
that's the 15 is for 3. Okay. You guys have any questions? Amy?
Nope.
All right. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It just says we have you here and not really budget, but sort of budget because it might cost you money to do. You know, sort of the hot button issues are the e-bikes and, you know, thefts. We talked about, you know, some community training and some school training. If you could just give us an update because everybody's here and it's probably a good time to.
Deputy Chief Walsh is going to do some of the training for, like we talked about, for the
Deterrence.
environmental design.
Yeah.
Crime
Yeah.
prevention.
Crime prevention. We're starting a new community initiative. We're going to try and reach out with the library for the end of the month or early February. We're going to do a presentation for staying put in New Canaan.
Okay.
And we're offering free home assessments.
Is it
to
only
come to a
open to
home
staying put
or a
or is it
business.
open to the community?
Well, first, there's 2 separate.
Okay.
So we're going to try one in the library when they have an opening, either at the end of the month that works with our schedules or in February. And Staying Put offered us a couple dates for next month as well.
Okay.
So we're going to coordinate with them and get in there and give them some of the outlines of the program and just do some more outreach on crime prevention and offering it to the public as well for their houses or businesses. So we've already done 1 business. We have another one lined up for the month and a couple residential already. And that's just from putting it out on town social media. So we're looking forward to it.
If seriously, again, please, if you want me to publicize anything in the
Yeah,
Sure,
newsletter
we'll put a
about it.
write-up in
I
for
think
your
it
next
would be
newsletter.
helpful.
That'd be great. Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then the new SROs and e-bike safety and.
Yeah,
you know,
so that's going to be
we're
one
in
of
the
their,
lull period now.
that's going
so
to be
this is a
one of their
good time.
tasks over the winter months. Fortunately, not a lot of kids riding their bikes when it's 8 degrees out, but when it gets 80, they're going to be back out again. So that's going to be one of their tasks, is to really educate the youth. And also, I wanted to do this last year, but staffing didn't really allow it. But I want those SROs to be downtown on Friday afternoons or Thursday afternoons when they're down. And so they can put a name to the face, and we can kind of get a roster of who's riding their bikes up and down Elm Street. And
And I don't know if you can educate parents, because giving a kid basically a mini motorcycle is probably not the best idea.
but if we can identify who they are and have their names and know who because like I've always said, it's probably the same 10 or 15 kids. It's probably not a lot of different kids coming in and out. So once we can figure out who those 10 or 15 are, we can address those 10 or 15 rather than blanket the town with a new ordinance or, affect everybody. That's not really fair to the people that are adhering to the laws when 10 or 15 are kind of outside of the lines.
Okay,
And
thank you.
You've publicized the car theft thing, as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
it's,
It-
28 years.
I know, it's
Does
continued to
anyone
be.
get their car stolen that doesn't have their keys in their car?
It happens not very frequently.
Infrequently,
The high percentage of time is the keys are left in the vehicle. Fortunately, with our license plate reader program, we are identifying, some of the cars, not only in our jurisdiction, but we've had some success stories where just recently we.
Last week, we got one off a shipping container in New Jersey, so.
But that's.
We're working on the cases. They're getting some arrest warrants with different, methods of investigation, including DNA.
That's 1 out of
processing
40,
device.
so, the majority of them are getting taken to some of the bigger cities or used for other crimes. A small percentage are being shipped overseas or wherever and utilized for that purposes. But, there's a high percentage are with the keys left in the vehicles.
Has the whole catalytic converter thing dropped off?
For now.
Right, for now, okay,
Hopefully.
sorry.
Thank you guys for all you do and appreciate it. All right, Albie, thank you for being so patient. Good. All right. Passed them last year though. Thursday's gonna be brutal.
Russell, feel free to move on.
It's just big. It's big for Public Works and School Works. We should think about that. Is there deep? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Public Works. It's a lot.
All right.
You can meet again.
All
You'll
right.
get sick of meeting.
There we go. You look official today, Albie.
Got to dress to impress.
We don't have beards here. It's department change,
I know.
No beards here.
No, not in the fire service. So,
Okay,
well, good morning.
morning.
Department of Fire Services, FY26 budget. So what we accomplished in FY25 and continue to do is public education. So between the fire marshal's office and the staff across the street, probably looking at over 100 and about 108 public education things that we did either downtown, schools, and so on throughout the town, which is good because that's the best bang for our buck when we're doing the public ed. And there's our numbers there. Smoke detector installs still seem to be a high number, and carbon monoxide installs, which are very important. We get a lot of incidents that have actual readings of carbon monoxide throughout the town on an annual basis.
So are the readings accurate? Is it like there's a carbon monoxide issue, or is the readings messed up?
We have, no, there's actual carbon monoxide. So whether it's furnace, car running in the garage, different reasons, but a high number of those depending on generators running at different times. So yeah, we do have a high number of true carbon monoxide incidents.
Unlike me, who my carbon monoxide detector went
Bad.
went bad. It was not a little thing, but like the hardwire,
Wow.
something was wrong.
Yeah, that happens. So it's not a
You don't want to
problem.
mess around with that.
No.
We continue to enhance our records management system. So trying to get a little better data, better input so we can get better output of the records management, which includes our incidents, the public education events. It includes our pre-planning inspections that the fire marshal's office does. So everything's rolled into that records management system. It's also our staffing is in the RMS. We did implement an online training management program. So most of our stuff is in the firehouse, hands-on, in front of a classroom. But the LMS, Learning Management System, has really enhanced that for specifically the fire company, the volunteers, doing a lot of stuff at home so they can increase the hours for ISO ratings. And that's really where the time comes in. But we took advantage of it. We're putting it out prior to any hands-on training so they can see videos. Everyone can see videos. We're putting everybody on the same page. So when they come into the firehouse, they've already seen it, and now they can do it as a group as they come in. So huge benefit of the learning management system over the last year. Took on 9 new volunteers in calendar year 20. No, that actually is that is FY 25, and we've had 4 of them pass Fire 1 in 24. So moving forward, so that's a good. We continue to increase our numbers, hold pretty solid with the volunteer staff.
How many levels of fire? R1, Fire 2,
Firefighting, there's firefighter 1 that gets all the hazmat operational that comes along with that training, and then there's firefighter 2, and then they can move on to instructor, officer. Okay. So a whole bunch of other levels after that. We do have just started 2 weeks ago instructor program that we hosted for the state, and we have 7 members. I think it's 7 members that are in the instructor 1 class on Sundays.
How does that 9 new volunteer compare annually to what we've been looking at over the years? Is that higher than normal or?
Definitely higher. The trend line has been tremendously reversed in the past 3 years, thereabouts. So it's very, very good. And most importantly, retaining the people that we have recruited. Not only is it through effective training and engagement, but we're keeping the talent, which is, I think, that tremendous.
What do you think is attributing to the higher level of volunteers?
First and foremost, the chief has done an extraordinary job of increasing opportunities through training, through engagement, through pushing to allow volunteers to be more active in responding to incidents and getting trucks out and things. So some cultural shifts, which has been tremendously appreciated. And then a lot of work on our side and the volunteer side between the volunteer president, myself as the volunteer assistant chief, trying to keep them engaged. So, yeah.
How many total volunteers do we have?
What are 40-ish, 30?
No, it's 29 right now on the roster.
We have volunteers that are active and then life members.
Yeah, I count the active. So yeah, 29 active, is probably 40 life in not, non-firefighting capacity.
Got it.
Okay, so 5 members completed Fire 1 in the FY 25. We're currently running an in-house Fire 1. We actually have 9 that started in November. 9 firefighters that started in November that are in an in-house Fire 1. So we haven't done that in a number of years, actually sponsoring the class and using our members to train them. So it's been going pretty well over the last 2 months, month and a half. So our numbers, we were up 100 calls this year, incidents, 1237 for total calls. Still 50% of them are fire alarms, so our detectors and whatnot. And most of those are accurate. They actually had something cause the alarm. So we don't call them malfunctions. So if someone's cooking smoke, dryer, steam from a shower, the detector's actually doing its job. Sometimes we'll recommend moving it, but for the most part, those are a true, something tripped that alarm, then, possibly be smoke. So they, cause a response. Our fires, were actually up this year for structure fires, and we unfortunately had just over $500,000 in property loss and 600,000 in contents loss over the few fires that we had. So that is a downside, but to put a positive spin on that for the types of buildings that the fires were in, and incidents, there was over $60 million in property protected. When you look at the cost of West School, with the small fire in there and that was reasonably small amount of fire damage. We had a house on Oak Street that had a significant amount of fire damage, but the overall value of the house, from a quick stop and knockdown of the fire was significant. So
How many actual fires did you guys respond? Not the percentage.
we had
How many?
40, there was 48, the government, the United States Fire Administration says is a structure fire. So there's 48 that got labeled as a structure fire.
There were a
That could
bunch
be-
downtown.
What's that?
I felt like there were a few like with downtown businesses, like some restaurants and things that. had
Fires,
Like cooking.
I don't recall any in the business district.
I think you're
This
probably
year.
remembering the exploding underground transformers, and
Yeah,
we had a lot
yeah.
of weird infrastructure issues. Not that one?
Ford Fish had one, but that would have been the year before.
The fish, yeah, the fish.
Yeah, so
I have a number on that chart that's 9% good intent. Is that someone who calls thinking that they see something and they're saying something?
a good intent could be, yeah, somebody called in that the house behind me is on fire.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a fire pit, so that it gets labeled. And these numbers are the United States Fire Administration's coding. So once you look at their definition, why'd you go? They saw flames from the back of the house, but it was somebody that was,
Burning a steak.
doing outside burning. So that gets chalked up as a good intent. I can have a smoke scare that somebody, had neighborhood or they had smoke in the house from something, maybe the oil burner, kicked on and they had smoke that could get coded as a smoke scare. So different ways that they're going to get coded. But back to about 48 true fires, and that could be a building fire, car fire, brush fire. So that's what they're going to, that's what the United States Fire Administration's records. Mutual aid, we're very busy at mutual aid. We're getting, all the towns are using it now. We've actually responded out of town in that last fiscal year 24 times. And we had mutual aid in town 40 times. And that also includes the Merritt Parkway because we run mutual aid with Stanford quite often. So that's what it gets tagged there for incoming mutual aid. And then over the course of the fiscal year, 155 simultaneous incidents. That means we were out on one call and a second call came in. Might have took a few extra minutes to get it covered, but the call did get covered by, all those were covered by our members, whether it was the first due apparatus clearing up or the callback volunteers that staffed the second piece and took the call in. Just to add before, just a couple more I didn't put on there. Our fire marshal's office did almost 700 inspections last year. So those are required, whether it's business, multifamily, residential, and so on. 1,350 consultations. So that could be oil tank information requests, just discussion on fire extinguishers on the phone, and so on, and plan review back to listening to the health department this morning, 158 plan reviews they did, which is part of that open gov is where the fire marshal would get their part of that. So that's the plan reviews that Fire Marshal Payne would be responsible for. And training, we did again, working with the records management system, 14,000 hours of individual training. So that's all the firefighters that are added up. 7,800 of those are in-house training while we're on shift. And, it's required, again, for the insurance services and OSHA requirements that we have to do. So the remaining 7,000 of that was a lot of our classes people take, the members going to recruit school and so on. That's bumped up that number so high for individual training hours. It's good, but to separate it, our staff on duties doing and our volunteers did about 7,800 hours of annual training. So moving forward in FY26, continue working with national standards. We're looking at those metrics. I mentioned OSHA. They are coming out, re-looking at their OSHA fire brigade law. So we're closely watching that as it's progressing and when it finally gets put into law in our timeframes of meeting all their requirements, which we are pretty good at right now. Continue to pre-plan our commercial occupancies and target hazards. You can see an example, that bottom picture is of our pre-planning software, that records management software I spoke of, and that's actually Waveney Care. It's Waveney House. That's on there and the things that we can do with it. So the information for the buildings in there, you can see we can map out our distance. I know it's small, but map out the distance from a hydrant and so on, that it's putting the information in, but you can use it live on the incident. So that's what we continue to enhance this and put more information in there, even for residentials. When we come across gates or call and, phone number information, whatever people want to provide us that we're putting in there that we can reference if a call comes in. Continue to enhance firefighter health and safety. So it's with PPE, some of our practices, both with cancer, mental health, and so on, as we, constantly looking at, what we're purchasing and how, some of our operations. Always looking at water supply infrastructure. We still have those areas outside of the downtown district that we're water limited, so that we're accomplishing that through mutual aid and always looking for opportunities to put our dry hydrants in or cisterns as people remodel houses. And continue to look at our specialized rescue capabilities. We started swift water training. Last year, we bought the equipment. You can see two of our members in, I think that is Silvermine River that they were in the spring. So working on that. So looking at if somebody goes in the water in the August flood events, car getting taken over by water, at some of our intersections, especially like Jelliff Mill, we have the capabilities and we continue to train on that. So that's one of the specialized rescues. So into the money. Based on what I proposed, we have a 1.7% increase. And again, we're going in the contract negotiations for the career staff soon, and that contract expires June 30th. So the overall request is $4,735,578. What are my major drivers? Of course, overtime, our full-time staff and overtime. So I cut that out here so you can see it. Our full-time staff for next fiscal year is 24 full-time firefighters, one fire marshal, myself. We have selected the assistant chief and will be full salary next year. And 25% of Russ's emergency management salary has come over to fire, because Russ will be working as the part-time fire marshal for 1 day a week, fire inspector. So doing some of those inspections. So that's our full-time salary line. And as you can see, our overtime lines, and I'll jump right down to vacation and holidays with the largest increase. Those are based on the number of days that the firefighters have to take off, and we have person for person hiring. So once one of our members is off, that 6 minimum drops down, and then we have to bring it back up. So every time a member takes off, we need to backfill. So those are the vacation days and holidays also include the holiday pay for the 6 members working that 24-hour shift. So that's included in there. And callback, it's a 10% increase. It's only $1,000, but good and bad. We are getting callback for the times that we have incidents and for mutual aid incidents. But the good thing is members are coming back to staff the firehouse for additional calls and or assistance on that initial call. I'll field any questions if you want to.
So Albie.
Yep.
I'm just kind of, I haven't looked at the staffing, besides the assistant chief.
Yep.
Your full-time staffing model should be the same, right? I don't remember any other additional increases.
Right. Nope. We still have, and what I didn't put in there is the part-time. Actually, the part-time positions are in the salaries part-time line for the administrative assistant and the current deputy fire marshal.
Okay.
So no additional increases.
Right. So for the OT holiday,
Mhm.
you're showing a 6% increase year over year. Versus like I look at 25 to 24 and there's like less than 1%. It's like a 1% increase. So why are we so much, without an increase in staffing, why are we seeing so much more holiday pay?
It possibly could be, you're going back to,
I just am comparing,
Yep,
because I
yep.
was like, it's a 6% jump. And a 7% in vacation.
go just from last year, because last year I figured it out by the actual days versus averages,
Okay.
which when I started, that's the first year was based on an average.
Mhm.
But our holidays, so FY 24 actual was 312. We asked for FY 25 16. Our FY 23 was 283. The only reason that I could speak for the increase between 25 and 26, I have now all 24 firefighters will have the 13 holidays next year, starting in July. So I don't have a vacancy. So that's probably one reason why it's the little bit of jump and the 2.5% estimated salary increase for the contract, which I did put in here. So
Now, why would some officers not, or firefighters not have full vacation?
depends when they start it. So if like a member like we're having a member start next month,
Okay. So it's
he's
just
only going to
timing.
get, he's only going to get 5 holidays.
Yep.
So those I can actually prorate per the month they come on. But once they get in, then they have to use 13.
Okay.
After the first year, they have to use 13
Okay.
holidays.
Yep. Makes sense. Got it.
So why, if I missed this and I was focusing on something, why if you're saying there's a 2.5% increase anticipated, why is my full-time salaries line just jumping up 1.5%?
There's no increase in full-time salaries.
Okay.
So I had already increased the overtime stuff, waiting on the recommendation from finance, and then without the contract increase, there was no increase. So I did not back out on, what I'm expecting in the overtime based on that. So that's the only reason. There's an additional 2.5% on each one of those overtime lines versus the full-time salary.
Got it. Got it. Yep. Got it.
Okay.
Police was the same.
Yep.
And then vacations are based on, so there's a few members that went from the 3 weeks to 4 weeks, 4 weeks to 5 weeks. So there was a little bit of increase in vacation time. And I see I think I miscolored my salaries training. So I'll call it. So that actually did increase to accommodate some full department training that I need to hire back for, especially the rescue disciplines and some of the volunteer training that we're doing, that I need to bring a career staff back to assist with the volunteer training.
It's really both police and fire will be higher than this at the end of the day.
Did you see one?
And where do we have, it's not in this
It's not
budget,
in
it's
there?
it's an overall for all pockets, because we're going in union negotiations, you don't do
Okay.
it separately. Salary consistency, and that's in,
But in,
what page is that, just so we can,
but in the police, he had a 2.5.
because they got, remember that they, that was that whole thing with the raises with the officers, the leadership
Yeah.
that we didn't do, and so I'm assuming that's in, it's in this, that's in this line now. So they didn't do the mid-year increase,
Right.
and we said, you need to put it through in your budget, that's now
Yeah,
in
but
the
I thought
budget.
it was, okay, I'll look. I thought he increased, he put the assumption increase for.
For he and the two,
I think the rest of them too, but.
no,
I'll go
no,
back and-
no.
So
no.
both these, they're just not
That's
realistic.
just,
These are
that's
not
just,
realistic then.
right, that's just for the
The three
leadership.
top guys, yeah. Mhm.
That's not for, everybody else is flat,
Okay. Yeah,
so,
so it's not real.
right,
What's basically,
right.
so the police 4.28% isn't real.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's another way to look at it. When we, I mean, I think everybody needs to think through that when we're, because it will be higher. But what page is the salary continue? 20?
It's not gonna be, it's also, the worry is that that's the biggest part of the number, so that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so you see, so there is, it's built, so it comes in through the full budget. There's a contingency in there, it's not in the individual line. So if you go to page 20.
Got it.
Okay.
That.
Any other questions on our salary there? Hearing none, other major drivers include one, we need to increase our apparatus repair line. The apparatus is getting much older. We got some major repairs that need to happen. There's not an emergency on it. So looking for FY26 to do some of those major engine repairs. And so looking at that 35,000 increase on that one line to one, I think I put it to 115 on the request. We did consolidate a lot of lines. So if you're looking individual lines, which I didn't outline them here, but contracts, we moved a lot of the PPE into one account. So now that we see significant increases, but that was all consolidation between different budget lines, budget's recommendation. And that included, one of them was uniforms, whoops. Get back there. So uniforms, emergency equipment repair, which is any of our tools and equipment that have to go out for repair. We brought those in to one line. We had 2 or 3 different lines. Meals and events incorporated a couple different things that we were doing for volunteer recruitment retention. So all those lines were increased based on closing down other lines, which were reasonably all small, but we had to move them between the consolidated lines. So meals and events went up 30,000, but that took in volunteer recruitment retention, and our emergency equipment repair went up almost 80% because we rolled in a service contract for SCBA repair that got rolled into that one that we do on an annual basis. So those were the increases there, and you can see that contract should have.
Yeah, net though, with all of it, it's a small number anyway, but net of the lines that are consolidated.
Yeah.
It's not really an increase, so.
Anything else on any other questions on operating?
I'm good. Do you
Nope.
guys-
Good. Thanks, Ally.
All right. Might move on to capital.
Our capital request for FY26, the We'll start with the largest one, which budget put under bonded, is our SCBA replacement. They're at 17 years, going on 18 years old. So we're looking to replace the entire fleet of SCBA, not the entire fleet of cylinders. Those are still in compliance, but that'll be 450,000. Now I highlighted it because we
Was this
do-
pushed off last year?
What's that?
The SBA?
I didn't push it off. No, we had it in for the
This year.
5-year plan for this year, which was moved up
Okay.
from FY 27 the year before.
Okay. That's
Because
what
we
it was.
put in for the grant last year, we were unsuccessful on getting the fire grant. We put it in again this year. We don't know yet. So hopefully that number, if we do win the grant, we're probably only gonna need 25% of that 450,000. Even though they ask for a 10% match, they don't allow you to buy a lot of things that is included in there.
So this is a complete refurbishing of all the masks and
Yes.
all the.
Yep.
Are there hard costs as well? Like, is there a station for the bottles or anything that need to be?
No, we don't need a compressor this year. No, compressor
So this is
still.
all literally the.
This is the, SCBA back frame, mask, some cylinders, because we're in our regular replacement of cylinders, but it's mostly the mask and the SCBA frame, the backpack,
Yeah.
and our rapid intervention packs, which is a small number in there, and some of the software that has to go into the new ones that the grant wouldn't cover, that we need to purchase for, like our tablets, so we can monitor from the exterior. So some of those things are built into that 450. The grant went in for just under 400,000. So it's about 390,000.
What's the life expectancy of that equipment once we have it?
15 to 20 years.
And so we've had 15 years out of the old.
No, they're 17 years old right now. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
goodness, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no argument there. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
are going into a burning building. I mean,
Yeah.
Come on.
No fortune on the other end. That's one of the major impacts on the lines and the operating for fixing them.
So are we, again, asking you, remind me, is there anything in this year's capital plan that was not in there last year? Or anything that was moved forward beyond
The pickup truck. So I did move the pickup truck up on highways. Keeps telling me every time it goes down there that I should seriously start looking at one. So we moved it up, and I don't know what the time frame is for replacing. I don't think it's as long as fire trucks, but I did move the pickup truck into FY 26 if the money was available, just because the body's starting to rot and they're really
so
pushing on
who drives
replacement.
this one?
The pickup is
Yeah.
just it's a
Had-
utility.
And it's just whenever there's an event,
Fire, event, carting stuff around.
Okay.
They do take it, some people take it to classes,
Okay.
to transport gear
Mhm.
outside of, their personal vehicle. So,
Isn't that a lot of money for pickup?
it is, but no,
Humongous,
it is, but
We're
it's-
not talking a little Ford Ranger or something.
No, we're talking full-size pickup,
Does full size mean like a 350 or two? I mean,
53, yeah, probably like probably a 250 at
we-
minimum.
are we
much does
buying more than
250
we
cost?
need?
How much does the 250 cost?
Well, remember, it's the truck is probably 70,000, but the rest of it is all the outfitting. And
So,
that's going.
I can expand on it, and I think I have a picture. Hang on.
Why we need.
Do I have did I put a picture? I didn't put a picture of it. So basically, it's the truck. I want to put a utility body on it, which allows for a minimal amount of equipment. It is a 4-person, 4-door cab. So it's got to be full size, because if members are wearing their gear, because it is a response vehicle. As for the volunteers, when they start coming in and there's no drivers for the full-size fire trucks, they can take the utility. We also want to get a lift gate on there to prevent injuries on the back. So all these couple $1,000 things. So we're gonna utility body with a lift gate, so we could put our rolled hose on there, and you can lift it up, and nobody has to lift up 100 pounds onto the back of a pickup truck at chest high. So those are some additions that we're going to put on there. And hopefully then it could be used more, because I would like it to be used as a take-home vehicle for volunteers if they're going to cover. So if they're living in town and they're up north, I can have someone that's radio equipped with a piece of apparatus at certain times of the year. So that's a thought process.
What is it replacing? What type of,
2007 pickup truck, 4-door.
is it as humongous as the new ones or? I mean,
F-350 Ford.
It's, I think it's an it's F-350 Ford, 4-door, 8-foot bed. Yeah, it's the same size as this one will be.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Highway Department has said it's done. I mean, if you look at it, basically the frame is rotting off of the body is
Yeah.
rotting off of the frame. So unfortunately, we've pushed it as long as we could.
Yeah, check engine light, they can't clear. Yes.
Down a cylinder currently.
Well, it'll be 19 years old by the time.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Pretty good.
you know, and it was in the, I think Chief Hennessy always had it as a 15-year replacement. And we were looking at 20. It's probably not, it's close. It's not gonna make 20, but that's where we are now. So,
Like,
but, you know, moved it up if it was available, and that's kind of what we're looking at doing.
I do like the word humongous though.
They are,
Great word.
they're huge. I mean, you know.
Well, it doesn't,
The
no,
front
it's
of the cab's 5 feet now. I mean, they're just like so huge.
not that big. You know, we don't want it that big.
Okay.
Definitely don't want it that big. You know, we don't
No
need,
special tires boosting it up. I'm kidding.
But also think that, you know, if you have a fire and you now have 2 hose lines, it's 250 feet of 1 3/4 hose that's sopping wet covered and stuff. And
yeah, it's,
we don't, that's the only vehicle we have to throw at the back to get it back to the firehouse to clean it, get air packs, bottles, all that equipment. That's a big part of its mission.
because that ties into the cancer reduction, that the lead, you don't put it back in the cab before it's cleaned. So that having the pickup truck is a necessity. You know, the question is, you know, how many times, how small is it? How many times we got to go back and forth? So, and it's really not a huge, I mean, we're looking at a 6-foot utility bed, not the 8-foot utility bed. So
Okay.
keeping it a little smaller to fit in driveways and everything we need to do.
Okay.
Otherwise, this year's tax supported capital, everything was on the plan, moving forward. You know, PPE continues to be on a regular, 10-year cycle, about 7 sets of gear a year. Radios is just maintenance right now, for the, you know, current radios to, replace them. They're at 12 years old right now, and batteries. Fire hose, small tools and equipment, that are all compiled in there. Those are gas meters, you know, ventilation fans, battery operated equipment, chainsaws, all that's rolled into that 15,000. We continue to look at the water supply, and then the firehouse security cameras has been on the capital request for a couple of years now, at least 2 years. So that's this year's capital request.
Bobby, that chainsaw, is that a battery powered chainsaw you had in there?
Yeah,
or-
yes, and we have both.
Okay.
So some are battery, really they're experimenting with the battery chainsaws.
Yeah, because it seems like that's a pretty intense
Yes,
piece of
Yeah, so
equipment.
that-
to
that
have
one-
battery.
but you know, it's different if we're needing to do ventilation, or they just need a small one to clear a couple branches that block a driveway.
Got it.
So the difference on how much work, that's why we're evaluating which one, if it's even worth it for the, but you know, 2-cycle won't start. That doesn't help anyone.
No, it's true. But I just think of like, sometimes if you have a tree blocking a driveway,
Yeah.
so that's a big job to.
Yeah, batteries.
Yeah, most of them are small.
All right. Any other questions? Not, is there any? Yeah, I didn't look at the staffing really quickly. Is there anything we need to go through on staffing, page 40? Is that right? Just before you leave, I might have missed something. Yes, that's just 0.25. Okay. Yep, same. So nothing's changed except for moving 1.25 of Russ into that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank
I
you.
had the 5-year plan. I noticed I didn't copy paste over the, what it is, but the biggest thing is the,
Trucks.
yeah, that 90,000 is extrication tools coming up. So that's starting to look at replacing that based on NFPA recommendations. And those are going to battery tools too, which save us on the operating side. So save us a little on the operating side. That should be it for Am I 25 in there? No, wrong. Let's see,
I just keep seeing
25
those
was
two tabs
for,
getting closer and closer.
25 in for something. I forgot what it was, Josh. So. The kitchen, the building repairs for the downstairs kitchen. For a new flooring for the downstairs kitchen, I believe. That's that 25 that's in there, but. So.
I don't see that. What are you talking about?
He doesn't have it labeled.
Yeah,
It's not labeled. It's this is his look ahead
Oh,
on the
okay.
capital plan.
Yeah, this,
So the
Yeah.
27, 28, the 1.5 million, that's for.
Okay, all right. I've had a request.
That's all right.
so.
Can we take a 2-minute break? 2-minute break, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
There was a request.
Wait, I have to share something.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, good.
Always use bathroom.
Steve's finally, or Diamond finally reported on that.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So emergency management budget request. Let's see if my computer wakes up. There it goes. So emergency management's mission obviously is to protect lives and property of citizens of New Canaan, planning and preparing for emergencies, coordinating emergency response and recovery, collecting and disseminating. I think a very big part of it is public information about what's going on, and coordinating with local, state, and federal emergency and disaster agencies. And then working through any of many potential all hazards approach, from everything from infrastructure failure, power outages, earthquakes, floods, actual earthquakes, which we did have in the last year. So some of the key accomplishments for the year. We had a discussion going about Deanna's newsletter, what platform we were going to use. And I pitched, recommended, and led the project to leverage our existing platform, which is Everbridge. And I think we're one of the few, we're certainly leading this charge for Everbridge nationally, because here we are paying for a tool that we have to have anyways, that we can now increase and allow our departments to improve their transparency to our residents. And that goes not only with the First Selectmen's newsletter, but also the health department, police, fire, and public works. And so over the last year, I've worked doing a little bit of HTML scripting because I am a self-avowed nerd, and leveraging the tool to make it self-sufficient for the department heads. So they're able to do this on their own. And since it's launched, I'm proud to say we have over 1,900 people who have subscribed to this. So 1,900 individuals out of 7,000 households, that's almost a quarter, which the level of engagement for your population to create an account and actively want to be engaged is incredible. And since it's been
more people on that.
Yeah. We are constantly marketing, and I certainly recommend, and
Gotta
since
get
this is,
back at it again.
yeah, another,
I speak, I have dropped off
Yeah,
of
all
it.
of us,
but-
we shall
Yeah.
say.
Your anniversary of the newsletter, which is March. Kind of reinitiate all of
yep, and since then, we've had 8 releases of info for fire, 3 for PD. Health has had 33, and then I think everyone knows that Tiger and DPW is leading the charge with 62 information releases to the public. And like I said, it's at no cost to us, providing it's at an existing cost to us and leveraging a technology. Significant events and responses over the last year, obviously the August 2024 flooding, not only the events during that, but now post that, working with the department heads to work with FEMA and attempt to submit for a public assistance grant to cover some of our expenses. Presidential elections of 2024, we had a large scale meeting with the department heads as well as the representatives from the town clerk's office and the registrars. We worked with the fire chief and the hazmat team in planning beforehand, pre-positioning assets, heaven forbid something occurred. And then the day of, I activated the Emergency Operations Center, provided radio communications to the actual poll site moderators back to the registrars into the clerk's office, which they were very appreciative of and used. Heaven forbid something had happened, whether it was a cyber attack or cell phone tower or a power outage, that they would be able to communicate directly and continue to make what has to happen that day happen. There was the October extreme fire danger. There were 911 issues in October. Of course, the earthquake in New Jersey, and then the quick work where we contacted the U.S. Geological Survey to confirm to residents within 10 minutes, 12 minutes, to residents that in fact there had been an earthquake and that there was no reported damage and that everything was okay. The heat wave and the extreme winds. Obviously, the flooding unfortunately leaves the charge for major events that have occurred as a presidentially declared disaster. In the last year, emergency management, I've worked to host or lead training across our various departments here in town to increase our preparedness as a municipality. Most recently, we did school reunification training, where we have a partnership we've entered into with a local facility, as well as the public and private schools. So in the event, heaven forbid, there were an act of violence or a needed evacuation and relocation of parents with their children, that we now have done. Not only have we acquired now an agreement between these organizations, but now we have facilitated training. And I work with the schools as well as the police department and some other agencies that we've pre-positioned equipment and resources to be able to run that site at the site. We also hosted an active shooter hostile event, tactical emergency casualty care, of course, and I'll have pictures of that in a second. So following on to, we got the equipment a couple of years ago, the armor for the police and correction for EMS and fire. Now they have the equipment. We facilitated the training and I'm leading with the chiefs the discussions around codifying those procedures in response. But first, get everybody out there to actually go through it again, because the last time I think it was done was in 2017 or 2016. I've been certified as an instructor for the FEMA National Emergency Management Academy, so increasing my professional credentialing as a EMD. And as the fire chief alluded to, I have completed fire investigator, and I have 2 weeks left. Thank goodness. Fire marshal certification.
Used to drive to Hartford 3
yes.
days a week.
Days a week since August, September.
How long are those classes?
It's all day.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and it's fire code, so it's very exciting books.
Bring some coffee.
Also, we participated in the governor's emergency planning exercise, the EPPI, which was elections 2024. I'll have a picture of that, and our department heads who joined that as well. I led a mass casualty incident training scenario with fire, Fairfield County Hazmat Comms team in Metro North, where it was an incident command training that I led, which was based upon a train derailment. So we actually had the chief from Metro North also join us to talk about how would we deal with and scale up to a large scale incident, which we did at the highway department. We simulated a train. So the fire did extrication exercises and incident command, and then I helped with pairing with Metro North and testing our communications and interoperability. And last, we did a traffic incident management safety course, hoping to mitigate or reduce risk through training for our police, fire, EMS, public works, CERT, around what is probably the most dangerous environment we operate, but certainly the most frequently, which is on our roads, and the incidents of motor vehicle accidents and individuals unfortunately being killed or injured working at those scenes. We facilitated that training. So this is the tactical emergency casualty care course that was hosted. You can see we have participants not only from our agencies, but also the state police and some federal representation as well came to help us and participate with us. Here you see further TECC learning how to actually do medical management for the EMT folks, as well as the tactical side and incident management for the police department. Marketing New Canaan alerts, which we've been exceedingly busy over the last year. And as you said, we'll rekindle our efforts to market it again across town. The governor's emergency planning preparedness initiative. So here you see representatives from CERT, the health department. We actually had a couple of tables. We've always had great participation in this, and this one was in particular around the election for this year. Here we have a couple pictures from the Metro North simulated derailment exercise, where we brought in the Fairfield County Communications Unit and had Metro North's chief there, as well as our chiefs and representatives from our departments, increasing our capabilities. And so moving into the operating request for the year, year over year, the request is down 22.7%. Obviously, a significant portion of that is the reduction in the salaries full-time line, as I will be working, helping out in the fire marshal's office doing fire investigation, as well as some nights and weekends on-call work for fire investigation. Let me get my little line out so I can not skip around, which I'm notorious for doing. We'll go to service contracts is flat year over year. And that supports things like Everbridge, the tool which we're leveraging, and our UASI sustainment fee, which is the regional radio system that we are partners with, which has been used at everything from the 4th. We use it for the 4th of July. We used it for elections. It's been very beneficial to us. Then we have training, which is down $3,000 to $2,000 this year. Part of the reasoning behind that is I've been working hard over the last couple of years to bring in training that doesn't cost us money through grant funded activities, which is every single thing you've seen that I presented, except for the reunification training was at zero cost, whether it was done through DEMA's funds or FEMA funds or state regional.
Hey, Russ, so the training to date, just $1,800 on a $4,600 budget. What do you have planned for the rest of the year to spend that on?
The intention was to bring in, hopefully I was going to be bringing in TCC to do CBRN. So lots of
Okay,
acronyms.
you just
We
did
love our
two
acronyms. I
acronyms
know.
there,
So
man.
I was about to say the Texas A&M Extension Universe to come in and do medical management of biological, chemical, radiological, nuclear explosive events. However, and it's free. They come down and would run that course for our medical providers. However, the scheduling, it didn't work. And that's actually, you bring a good point, which is you see that the meals and events, most of the money, if it's not an individual instructor, is actually to buy the pizza and the coffee to encourage, in particular, our volunteers to want to come to the events. So I do not anticipate to spend that line fully this year at all. That explains why.
So that's why you're proposing dropping that, but you're proposing a little bit more for meals and events to be the host.
Correct. To be the host, to be the one, as I've been doing, and to be able to facilitate those kind of exercises and at least feed the participants that are there. And occasionally the meals and events has been if we have a major emergency or an EOC activation or whatever it might be to feed the staff that are there to make sure that's a budgeted expense. Let's see here. Voice and data is minimally down, $200. Or correction, sorry, I'm on the wrong line there. Voice and data should be, $500 down. And that's supporting, the reason it's down is because we no longer have a deputy director of emergency management. So the cell phone expense is gone. Otherwise, that's sustaining our share of the wide access network, the portion of the public safety radio backhaul internet for the country club site and just the country club site and Oak for the radio system backhaul. We pay Optimum for a cable modem for those. And Starlink, so our satellite communication backup. That's just the annual fee for that. Uniforms and equipment is down $2,000. That is down because we are reducing our contribution to the community emergency response team, the CERT team, and they are okay with that for this year. They have not spent it this year, and I do not anticipate that they will be spending all of it this year. So we were okay with adjusting that down for next year.
Because we haven't spent a penny of the 4,000.
Correct. And I am waiting, but I have a feeling we probably won't, and I'm going to do my best not to if I don't have to, is the intention. But that money was allocated in discussions with them to support the CERT team. We had said we had committed over the past 2 years for $3,500 for CERT equipment. And CERT has, of the 2 years, CERT purchased signage, lights, and safety PPE for their personnel 2 years ago. This year they have, they said they're looking like they're good. So hence why we're removing that from the budget year over year. And an equipment emergency is the only one that I would say we're down 3,000. We've moved forward the replacing the computers for the emergency operations center. So I'm going to pay for that out of equipment emergency this year. The reason being is that the town, as you may or may not be aware, is updating the back end, and the actual computers we would have for the EOC will not work with that new environment. So I'm doing that with this year's budget. The only thing that leaves me with the equipment emergency 4,000 is that that would be purchasing things like meals, water, things like that for a shelter, which I was going to do last year, which we're hoping to do this year.
Why is that not in meals and events though? Yeah, I'm confused.
What?
That shouldn't be in an equipment line.
The MREs? No, that's emergency
meals
disaster
ready to
supplies.
eat?
Or whatever we can
Oh,
find
okay.
canned, non-perishable. It is an
Oh, okay.
emergency rations or supplies.
Misunderstood. Yep.
So
So of this year, the 7,000, so that wasn't in the police EOC budget for redoing the police. So that's
not that I'm,
coming, so those computers that are going to go into the EOC at the new PD are coming out of this year's $7,000 budget.
correct. And they're actually being replaced now for our EOC as it stands now because they do not work.
Okay.
How many
What is
computers
that?
is that?
5 or 6 of just the thin client desktop, because most people BYOD, bring their own device, but a lot of people want a keyboard and a mouse and an actual desktop. If you're gonna be stuck in there for 16 hours a day for 2 weeks, mitigating a hurricane or whatever it might be. So they're like $700 a pop is what the quote I just got from IT. So that's a necessary replacement because they're gonna be inoperative.
So that's for this year. So that's
This year.
coming out. So what is the meals ready to eat? How much are we going to spend on meals ready to eat?
It's not going to be as many as we would have individuals within the shelter. So it's going to be about half of that, but I'm okay with that. Because they're not cheap. And I actually, per our discussion last time, I don't like the fact that they're as pricey as they are. I want to see if I can find a better solution.
Yeah.
Whether it be canned or whatever it might be. But the reality is it's one of those things you can't just in time order. A hurricane we may know is coming. We can try to order it and hope that Granger or whoever else we would get the food from can get it to us before it hits us. However, there could be situations where, let's say we had a mass power outage in town today and we needed to leverage the YMCA. It would take time for me to order and purchase things, whereas we need a small cache, and that's what the 4,000 would be recommended towards.
I'm trying to think, like, remember when all the power went down with the
8 days of
yeah.
Sandy and
and not Sandy. I was thinking actually when the grid went down. Remember the grid went down? It was like 2 years.
oh, just in Norwalk when they cut the
It was
line.
it was a whole Northeast when remember the whole, did we even have to do anything then? I mean, did we, I get the idea of preparedness, but it's like there's a bunch of these lines, we put them in, but it was like, maybe we really don't need them. So,
I think the only answer that I can give you is the same as I said before, that you can't just in time purchase some of these things because of the nature of you competing against every other town and citizen around. And I'm not talking about a lot here. I'm talking about enough to sustain, 25 people, max 50 people for 2 or 3 days if they're at the YMCA at our shelter site.
so it's no way a $4,000 expense is way lower. Probably, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
If it's 25 people for a couple of days, it's probably not a $4,000 line item.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know. You tell me, and I don't know what
It's the only line that I have for maintaining and working on the equipment and or purchasing supplies in advance. So
No, I only
it's a
asked because I thought we
recommendation.
were getting them last year and we didn't. Right?
It did not happen because I had to use those funds to purchase the computers.
Oh, okay. All right. So, because I thought they were in last year's budget that we were going to do it.
No, that was the intention last year, but that has had to change because I have to purchase the computers.
So how much have you already ordered those? Those?
Got the quote. Just got the quote from.
What are we estimating that's going to be?
I don't have the quote handy, but it was in the somewhere to 6 to 8 range was the price
So
of the computers.
basically-
It's going to be that
basically
entire line.
It's the
Correct.
whole line. Okay.
Russ, if we had an event now, the EOC, we'd always go to the police station and we had sort of the natural, what does the EOC look like now and where is it? But before June's opening of the new PD or July?
It is currently a town hall and it's the boardroom.
Okay. Got it.
And it will be relocated back to the police department once that renovation is complete.
Yeah, because I mean, the police department's obviously the natural spot with the
Right.
the setup they have over there. Good.
And it's been set up, run, tested. We did it for the election. We stood it up. I got all the pieces, bits and bobs out for the August flooding, but thankfully it was a short duration, high impact, but short duration event. So. And moving on to capital, the only item for this year is the sustainment of our public radio system, public safety radio system. I originally had the tri-band, the last of the 3 years of tri-bands. I removed that. I'm good with the 2 years worth that I'm still working. We still haven't seen them due to supply issues and the nature of things. But with those radios that we purchased the 2 previous years, I said, nope, we're good. We don't need any more. I had planned on it, but I think we can sustain and operate with this, the request that was done before. So the only thing is the public safety radio. And the out years is that again, it's the radio, and that is an estimate. So for the 5-year capital plan, that is a guess based upon just putting a fixed percentage. I think I put 10 or 12% year over year, being, I hate to say aggressively pessimistic as to what they would do. And because it is actually a year and a half out, I haven't had any success getting new quotes because it's so far out when this contract would terminate. But I expect within the next 6 months, I'll begin the conversation with them about what this contract to sustain our public safety radio system would be going forward.
Do you think we're going to get hit with what Albie was saying, that everything's basically subscription basis and they're just like, bump what's up?
I don't think so because we own the equipment. In this case, when we did the renovation of the public safety system, we own the hardware, the software, the blades, the only thing I think we pay for the license is the software for the actual brains of it. I think they're stuck with this model currently of their software update, hardware update, and support model, which, as you are well aware, I'm unable to get transparency as the bits and pieces that how they figure out their amortization schedule over the life of 5 years. However, if you want, I'm happy to send you. They sent me the entire list because I pushed them hard of every single thing that has been done over the past 5 years with this contract. And it is substantive. They've replaced a lot of server switches. They replaced the software itself and refreshed it. Just recently, they went and did a number of the sites. They went to the actual sites and replaced equipment. And the number of service calls 24/7 is there. So
okay,
we're definitely getting our money out of it. It's just, unfortunately, it's expensive because they're the only name in the game, like the tasers, unfortunately.
right, right.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
Great.
Russ.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So that's it for the-
Budgets were down over 20%. Thank you, Russ. Thank you for adapting to the new world. We appreciate it.
All right, so moving on to the fire department personnel, Albie and Cheryl. Albie and Cheryl, Albie. How do you want to do it?
There we go. All right, I'll lead off. Welcome again. Hello again. We are looking for the approval to hire our newest firefighter, Hamilton Mike Stewart, one of our volunteers coming on the
Goes by
careers,
Mike, not by
which he
Hamilton.
was actually sworn in already, but yeah, hire him as on our full-time staff. He'll be starting on February 3rd, if it's approved, and off to the academy on February 10th. And we're also selected an assistant fire chief, William Parrott, coming from Hartsdale, New York. I did 20 years in that fire department, and chose to come over here with the offer we like to give for the assistant fire chief on the career side. Anything else I need to add?
No, you did a great job. The commission has approved this.
Yeah, thank
They
you.
did go through a bunch of interviews, went through a bunch of candidates and did come out with this individual.
Against that we have for assistant. I mean, he's pretty decorated here. It's amazing
Yes.
how.
For the assistant chief started out with about 20 applications coming in. We had invited 8 to the assessment center which was conducted by a third party. And 6 ended up going through the assessment center. And obviously, as Cheryl mentioned, offered or looking to offer other members, and they chose not to accept the offer. So not that this person was our third choice. There's reasons why we didn't pick him first.
Distance was one.
And and just his strengths were my strengths. So I have to turf a lot more off on him and let him handle his strengths, and I'm gonna handle my side of things, my side of the house. So
You're going to develop new strengths.
yeah, well, I'm gonna develop my other strengths and stay out of the training arena maybe a little more. So that's kind of the biggest difference. So anyway, yeah, no, he was a very good candidate, and that was the only reason that he initially wasn't first. One was the distance, and then the strengths and what myself and the commission were looking for didn't line up perfectly of that position. But there was no other candidates on that list that we wanted to offer, and it wasn't worth going out. But there's really no one in the market right now, so that's where we are. And it's very good choice, though. Very good choice, no question.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about the culture that you've created, Albie, and it's just, I'm ready to print up T-shirts with Albie culture. Remarkable how
Thank you.
That has really taken hold, and I'm sure you'll do great with this new assistant and allow you to have more time to do other things. So it's good.
Does he have a long commute?
When he came for breakfast the other morning, it was 22 minutes to get off exit 36.
That's not bad.
Right.
As soon as we give him lights, it'll be even faster.
Yeah. I don't know if you should say that.
Any other questions? All right, so if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Human Resources Director and the Fire Chief to hire Hamilton Mike Stewart as firefighter and William Parrott as Assistant Chief.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank you, Albie.
Thank you.
All right, Stacy, Parking Department.
Hi. So the parking department is requesting approval to enter into a month-to-month renewal contract with our current parking management software program called Passport Labs. Our annual contract is expiring on January 30th. And the reason we're requesting a month-to-month is because we're looking at new management software programs. So I don't want to lock us into anything for possible early termination fees or anything like that. And they were willing to work with us on a month-to-month basis. So just looking to change the current contract to a month-to-month renewal.
When do you think you're going to be able to do an evaluation of who the longer term, a longer term?
I am
contract is with?
hoping within the next maybe month or two to have a final determination on who we're going with. I have a company that I'm very interested in, and I just need to move forward with, presenting it and everything. So.
You talk to other communities as far as other companies that they're using, I'm sure you're talking to.
And there are a total of 4 companies that I've looked at their software programs, talked to other different communities that are using different programs, and just to see who likes what. Nothing is ever perfect, but the one that I'm interested in seems to work for the town of New Canaan well, and our common town Darien uses it as well for their parking. So, I know the person there, we talk a lot, and at least I have somebody that could help me with it. And so I think it works well.
Great.
Any other questions? If not, if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Parking Department to enter into a month-to-month renewal contract with Passport Labs, Inc., the parking management software system.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank
So
you.
much.
You have our overpayments. If you want to take a look. Any questions? Not, if I could get a motion to approve refunds of tax overpayments.
So moved.
That's unanimous. Thank you. And then the legal bills are on the tablet. Do you have any questions? If not, if I could get a motion, well, no, you just need to look at it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, the town hall petition, that's a, oh, I see, 2608.
Town hall petition.
What's the town hall petition?
Yeah, it's under share.
It's just wording, Cheryl, I think more than anything. Okay. All right,
What was that?
fine. Probably executive session.
Another
Okay.
day.
Another
given.
day. All right, no problem. All right, that was my only question.
Okay. All right, so, no real selectmen comments are on here, but, just wanted to, thank the interfaith.
Need to vote on legal bills?
No, you don't vote on legal bills. Oh, approved. No, we didn't. So could I get a motion to approve? Sorry. Motion to approve, the legal fees.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then just announcement, wanted to, thank Amy and Steve for joining me yesterday at the Interfaith Council's 23rd annual MLK Day. I don't want to use, observance. Thank you. I'm like, what word am I missing? It was a beautiful service and really well attended, and we're just very fortunate to have so many great volunteers in this community hosting that event. So that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a moving event, and to see all of the different leaders of all of our different churches in one place, it's always just so amazing. And it's a great community we live in. That interfaith council is
And the pivot ministry was great.
Yeah. And I
Beautiful.
I knew because I went last year, but we have a town council member with a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Oh my
Jen
gosh.
Zonas
Oh
has
my
an
goodness.
unbelievable
Amazing.
voice.
Amazing.
Jen Zonas. She's a cantor and she got a stunning voice.
Yeah.
So we are very fortunate. So anyway, with that, if I could get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So,
And
second.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
So.